throwing you off the fucking set, you prick.
What is that? What is violence?
All right, bitch ass fucking shit. I'll fucking choke your fucking
What are you
face.
doing? Do you not talk to me?
Fuck you! I'm just trying to fucking help you. Do you understand?
No, I'm pretty far from okay, man.
Take it one fucking line at a time.
Yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
I'm gonna fucking kick your fucking ass. You don't shut up for a second, all right?
Whatever it is, it's not right on a teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
Yell at me.
Are you serious?
Let's not take a fucking minute. Let's go again.
I don't know what that
And let's not have you fucking walking in.
Do it live.
said that?
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Okay, here we go. I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm in the zone. Yeah. Okay.
I just love you're just like so much more prepared and better at running a podcast than I am. But
That's not the case at all.
it's fine.
Yeah.
This is the movie magic. I always say magic. I don't know how it gets in there. It's the movie magic podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's the
I'm
movie
here with.
Logic podcast.
That's how I always
Yeah.
try to say it. And I'm here with Steve Allen.
Hello, everybody.
Who is
Thanks
a
for
local
having me.
filmmaker. He's an incredible filmmaker. And if I were to list your talents, I'm sure it would take too long because there's a lot of things that you're good at. I've found.
Oh, thanks, man.
Things that you wouldn't even expect. You know, you're a hot sauce connoisseur. You make your own beer.
Yeah.
You're an artist, and I think your father was an artist too, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Visual artist.
Yeah, he was. And funny you bring it up. I'll make a very quick story. I have piles of his paintings because he was an aspiring commercial artist. He wanted to do. He did political cartoons and stuff like that. He did make money, but what I have in memory of him is mostly leftovers of stuff that nobody wanted. Right. So as near and dear to my heart as they are, since I don't need to make a career out of my art, at least my 2D art, I'm just doing stuff for my kids and my wife now. So I've retaken up. Oh, hey, awesome! I'll get tacos. Thank you.
Fries. Yeah, sweet.
Awesome. I'm going to keep filling the air here. Nothing for me, thanks.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
That looks wicked, yeah. Thank you. So I've taken up art again so that they have stuff to hold on to. And I'll just quickly, for anybody out there who does any kind of art, I remember my dad would let me stay up as late as I wanted as long as I was doing something productive and not just watching MASH or something.
Wow.
And
That's really interesting.
He never, ever backed down from that rule. He let me stay up till 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning as like a 12, 13-year-old, as long as I was practicing a skill like art.
That's a
It
great
usually
idea.
was drawing, yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. I mean,
Everyone
I'm sure
I know is kids to bed.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's because my dad wasn't, like an educational professor or anything, but, he was a master's in English, I guess. But anyways, whatever. Now that I think about it, I'm like, actually, yeah. Forget how smart the people that you love are, right?
Right.
Anyway, but what was my point? Oh, this is the problem.
Making good things for your kids.
Yes, so, and one of the things he scolded me almost because I was practicing on a napkin or something, and he says, look at all the effort you put into that. Don't do art on a napkin. Like, even if you're practicing, at least make a decent paper.
Right.
Because you're just throwing away your time, not to mention your skill. So now I only do things on like really professional, like high-end paper and ink, and even my kids once in a while. I mean, because a lot of it's kind of garbage. It's true, but like as they get old, they're already. I snapshot time with like a really nice piece of archival, watercolor paper or something that like okay. And to this day, I have stuff that I did as a little kid that I can look back on and go, oh my God, it's like a time machine. Because I have this terrible memory, so I need these devices, these mnemonic devices / physical devices to remember my fucking life.
Yeah.
That's why the iPhone was so, a smartphone was so fucking huge for me, because I know one day I'll be, senile and drooling and at least be able to kind of remember the stuff I got to do.
So do you back up all your photos?
Yeah, I occasionally do. Yeah. I mean, I'm no hero when it comes to backing up, but once in a while.
I had a drive go down recently.
Oh no, yeah.
And I backed up everything on it except for my latest project.
Yeah.
And somehow my finished films from throughout my high school and film school. So luckily it was just some of the motors and stuff went, and they were able to get most of the information, but some of it's been corrupted. Files won't open, or when they do, it's it's
sorry to
clear
hear
they're not
that,
going to
man.
really work. So it's now you always have to learn the lesson the hard way with backing up files. So Yeah, important to do that. Your dad's smart because it's so true. You look at a guy like Leonardo da Vinci that only made how many visual artworks, and some of the ones of his that are celebrated were just sketches in his notebook, right? They were just temporary little things. So we're gonna get to know our friend Steve here by his favorite films. He's the smartest guy I know, because everyone else they don't stuff their face to get rid of the food while it's hot, and you just know exactly how things are going to turn out. So that's brilliant. So without further ado, here are Steve's top 10 films going in reverse order.
10, The Waterboy. 9, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah.
So I
Is
want
The Waterboy actually on the list?
you know what? Let me
Could be?
It could be, and I'll tell you
Wow.
why. So, one, let's just talk about what makes the best movie real quick.
Hey, I love it.
I think you need to define anything before you start building on that foundation.
Absolutely.
So, you're asking me what the best movie is, and I'll just quickly spit out, I assume you mean which movie do I enjoy the most?
Yeah, because actually, in asking anyone what the best movie is, they're going to say what their, if not their favorite, what their favorite of the good quality movies, right?
Yeah.
I assume it's it's an opinion, right? So I assume that part of it is your opinion on what you think. I was actually asking just your favorite, but it's even better if you chose your best that are your favorites.
Yeah. So, okay. So I, for a while, struggled with what I would call my favorites, right? Because I'd feel guilty about not naming something that's like a celebrated, whatever movie, right?
Yeah.
And I know other people have their way around it and so on, and I'm like, because I probably got really pumped up about Citizen Kane or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it will always appear on a list very high up, and I feel that, with all due respect, that it's not
that good.
It's not that it's not that good. It's that they're attached to it is a certain stigma / obligation to point out that it is a groundbreaking blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right, and it is. And I'm not. By the way, everybody, you're about to be very very disappointed if you're looking for any hidden gems out there. I got a couple, but my. I hope that I don't come off lowbrow, but let me explain it.
Yeah.
I got past my guilt complex about not seeking out art house films and so on, which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
By determining that, in my opinion, the rating scale is not a 1 out of 10, it's not a thumbs up, thumbs down, it's not a whatever, it's how many times in your entire... This is my definition... Listen carefully. This is my definition of how you should rate a movie, and I mean that with respect. This is how I do it, and that is how many times, this will make your life a lot easier.
No, I think I know where you're headed.
How many times am I willing to watch that movie in my lifetime? In any circumstances, you might binge on it 10 times, you might just know that I want to see it this many times. How many? That's the only best you can do. So my list was actually only created literally 3 minutes before this podcast. I quickly rated how many times I'd watched something, and then I just put it in order.
Yeah.
And another thing you're all going to be very disappointed is I'm not a name dropper. I'm not good with names at all. And it actually is a consequence of work. It's really weird. The more I do this job, specifically, and the more I'm doing it at the time, I won't even remember your name, right? It's fucking weird because it's like a RAM that says it's filled up with all this data, and the data you don't need is maybe some names at the moment or something. It's very weird. It's very surface level memory.
No, I can get that because it's the same with me. There's people whose names I thought I'd know forever, and then now I see them and it's like, man, I don't even know their first name, let alone their last name.
Yeah.
And it's based on who you've seen recently, right? Who you're constantly working with, who you're... So
by the way, I'm pretty sure I've already spat all over this little pizza. Do you want me to just eat this? Because it was light under my mouth.
Yeah,
okay,
good.
Another
one here,
I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God, I just spat all over the poor guy's pizza. Anyway, my voice penetrates lead and my spit's even worse. How many times are you willing to watch a movie in a lifetime? And that sorts through a lot of bullshit.
Oh, it really does.
Don't get me wrong, I'll quickly, this is probably the most... do you remember Last Night? Goyen, I think, or whatever, the director out of
Adam McGoyan?
Is it Agoyan that did Last Night?
I don't know that film, but I do know Adam McGoyan.
I think it's Agoyan. Well, for all the buffs out there, Last Night is about the last night on Earth, and it's like a fairly small film, and it's fantastic. I saw it, years ago. I can't remember. It's not on my top 10 list, but it is like way up there. So this isn't me making excuses for why I love, Waterboy so much. Anyway, so here's the list. I'll just quickly. Sorry to ramble, everybody.
No, that's fine. And don't worry about rushing through. We'll cover each one as it comes.
I mean, I got reasons, but I think I want to. Oh, and one last thing. I'm so sorry. God, you're already how long into this? Fuck, I hate it when people listen to podcasts. Corey asked me to have the years, and I'm like, don't worry, you're not going to have a problem figuring out what year these movies were. But I did decide to only guess from memory what the years are, because they are relative to my life and how I remember them.
Okay.
And I got to be honest, I mean, I hope somebody keeps score out there.
I kind of want to hear the
I'm
story.
pretty good at guessing the years movies are made without ever looking. Like, even if it was way before I was born, I usually get it within a year or two.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I'll fuck these up every one.
I find that I can tell a lot from cinematography.
Oh, really?
I can see, like, the images, and it's, like, clearly like early 70s, whatever.
I mean, that'll get me in the decade, but I usually define it with the cultural phenomenons of the time, or the zeitgeist, or whatever. So number 10 that I figured out today, like, I didn't dig deep because my list is usually within the top 100 or whatever you might find online, and I'm sorry again. I do have some examples beyond
this. This is the most apologies I've heard before a list began.
Well, I heard that guy, what's his name, who works at the film pool.
Logan.
Oh my God, it's just like, sometimes you come across these people, there's a variety of people who work in the industry that are just amazing. It's like there's it wasn't Logan, but I mean, it reminds me of a guy who was like Rain Man with movies. I mean, he wouldn't just name he'd name the producer. It'd be an oddball movie. He'd name the producer, the director, the cinematographer, the fucking sound guy. It was
who is that?
Amazing. What's his name?
Are you talking about Sean?
Sean, it's Sean.
Sean, he's
That's
unbelievable.
Right. The guy who moved to LA?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, Earl's is the best restaurant in the city. I used to work here, and like I can confirm, I've worked in several restaurants, and it is the cleanest kitchen you'll ever find. It's like up there with any, there's gourmet restaurants whose kitchens aren't as clean, and it's so super fresh, high-end ingredients. So, yeah, but you know that. I'm just telling everybody else. Anyway, what was I saying?
You're talking about Sean Wicks, isn't
Sean
it?
Wicks. Sean Wicks is brilliant. I mean,
I think he moved back to Regina.
Did he really?
Like,
yeah. Shout out to Sean. I mean, he's got a really lengthy film knowledge.
No, he's a master. He knows all the films.
Yeah, and you know what? And that brings me to like the beauty of the industry is that this is not one genius in anything. I mean, yes, we give credits to the directors and the producers and the mainly the directors or whatever, some writers and some amazing cinematographers, but I think if you actually ask them honestly, it's a team on every single thing. So super strong. It's more like football almost in the sense that it's like, there's a quarterback, but I mean, he's not going to deny that there's a team there.
Yeah, you need everyone to do their job in order for things to turn out.
Exactly, and if it's a different team, it's going to be a very different, unless your team is just incompetent and you're just so fucking good, but that's rare, right? I mean, like Kubrick would be one of those where like, now, oh my God, the crew of Kubrick's films, I'm not cutting down, but like, I'm pretty sure Kubrick could probably take a bunch of students and, blow your fucking mind. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so my first one on the list is Taxi Driver.
Okay.
That's 10. Not for any particular reason. 72 is my guess. I give it
the guesses. That's fine.
I give it a 21 because I would probably watch that movie about 21 times in my life. I've probably already seen it about 15, and I've got it memorized, so I don't probably need to see it many more.
That's the same with me. So I also have a similar belief that the better movie is, the more times you're going to watch it. It's the kind of movie that you're changing channels. No matter what channel I find a movie on, like a certain movie like Shawshank Redemption, I'm going to stop on it, and I'm going to watch it all the way to the end because I just love it. But there is a limit to how many times you're actually going to be able to watch it. For me, I found that out with Gladiator, which for a while was my favorite film of all time. And I would even watch it only every 2 years, and it still got to the point that in the end, I can't really watch it now because I know every moment that happens. I know every line that's coming.
Yeah.
And it's almost better in my imagination now than actually doing it because I know it so well. So.
Yeah. I'll just quickly say about Taxi Driver, one of the reasons I think it appeals to me so much is it's a movie. My father is like the most important thing in my history. I was raised by him entirely. Okay. My mom actually was with him till I was about 4. You know what I mean? So it's and then I'd spend weekends with her or whatever. But beyond letting me stay up as late as I want to draw, as long as I was drawing or doing something, maybe just building something or even just taking something apart. If I wanted to disassemble a clock, he'd let me, right? That didn't happen a lot, but I mean,
Yeah.
Anyway, he would let me watch shit way too early. Way too fucking early.
How old were you when you saw Taxi Driver?
Under 10.
That's so insane.
Yeah. Well, he'd warn me. I mean, I even warned my own son, and I'd say, this is just a movie. This is like imaginary shit. It's like,
okay.
And he'd help me he'd pull me out of it and bring me into this is what blew me away about him. He didn't go to film school, he didn't whatever, right? And I always admire about him is he'd go, oh, you wouldn't believe this movie I just watched. You gotta see this, right? He was in the Marines, right? His buddy, Steve, who I'm named after, died, fresh off the boat after being drafted. Wow. He joined after the guy was drafted, his friend was drafted, 2 weeks later thinking, well, Steve's going, fuck it, I'll go. They didn't know any better. But then he got the news just before he was about to graduate basic training, and that his best friend died. And he said, fuck it, I gotta go. It was literally the day or two before their graduation, and he said, I gotta go. Because everything was falling apart. Suddenly he was watching the news and heard about this, and it's something's really fucking wrong here, and he went to Canada. And that's why I exist here.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway.
Is this Vietnam, are we talking? Or
Vietnam,
what?
yeah.
Okay.
He comes home one day. It's worth the backstory. He comes home one day. He says, you're not going to believe this movie. You got to see this. And he showed me Full Metal Jacket. and I was fucking blown away. I mean, I was 12, 13 or something like that. And then we're done, and he goes, oh, yeah, no, actually, it was in the middle of it. The first viewing of that, while we were watching it on the VHS, because he bought one so that we could have movies anytime we wanted. It was a big deal for us. And he goes, I don't know, this guy? That's exactly what it was when they were training me in the Marines.
And you're talking
down at Camp Pendleton, if anybody was curious.
Trainer?
The actor, what's his name?
Drill sergeant.
Yeah.
He just died. I don't even...
I know, so it hurt me because I thought of that again, yeah. But you're going to get a lot of this, by the way. I'm the opposite of Sean. I'm going to be the director of Jaws, Close Encounters. Who's that guy? You're going to get a lot of that.
And
Sorry.
The guy, normally I would know an actor's name, but
American Beauty, right?
But he was not really an actor. He was
Wait, no, that's not American Beauty. No, see, that's how bad it's going to get. Sorry, everybody.
He was actually a drill sergeant, right? Is how he got that role. And so that's why I never really remembered his name.
I didn't know that, though.
Because I didn't think of him as an actor, because he's not going to do a whole bunch of other films. That was Yes, please.
The thing he was actually blown away with was the director, because he was finally putting the pieces together of all the other Kubrick films. Yeah. And he goes, this director, I've read about him. He's some guy in England. I have no idea how he knows exactly what basic training in a Marine camp, in a training camp for the Marines is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we watched it, and of course, there's everything else, right? So that stuck with me. That burned in my brain, and I will watch that movie so many times. It's on a list.
It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest war film of all time.
Exactly. So, next one?
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Clockwork Orange. That was one of the first films that I saw when I was too young.
Mm-hmm.
I was
me too.
I saw it when I was 13, but I still classify that as a little too young to see Clockwork Orange because
I'm starting to wonder now. I'm starting to wonder. Maybe it was just the right fucking time.
Well, maybe that's true.
Maybe for your average kid or whatever. Maybe my dad looked at me and said, "He can handle it." In fact, he did censor it for me. He rented it one night, and he said, "You got to go to bed. This has got some bad stuff in it." And he said, I literally a year or two later, he rented it again and said, "You can watch this now." So maybe he was really. Yeah. I think he put a lot more effort into raising me than I realized.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I like Clockwork Orange. I mean, what can I say? I mean,
yeah. To me, that's actually Kubrick's best film. It's my favorite of his. I think it's the best. It's so well done.
Yeah.
It's such a. experience. That's like, it's more than just watching a movie, right? Like, it'll change the way you think about a lot of things.
Everything, yeah.
If you pay attention, if you're young like I was when I saw it, I don't know. Maybe even when you're older, I don't know.
And it's timeless.
Oh, yeah.
You know. If you asked me my favorite movies when I was 10 years old, I would have had Crocodile Dundee on there. I even tried renting it later on, when I was like 30 or something like that, and I couldn't get through 5 minutes of it.
It doesn't hold up.
As great
right?
as it was and as much fun as I had, it just doesn't hold up. So,
yeah.
On the other hand, there's these movies that have come out over the years. For me, I think a really important one is, or a good example, not important one, is Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and I can't remember the amazing actor's name, but as far as I know,
Escape from Turkish prison, is that
no,
the one?
Midnight Run. I can't remember the year. Is I would guess it's about 1987. Midnight Run is it's Robert De Niro plays a bail bond bounty hunter.
Okay.
Right, and he goes and he gets this guy who starts fucking with his head, and it's incredible. I mean, it's very timeless. But I'm pretty sure at the time I recall Robert De Niro being in a comedy is like a real step down.
Yeah.
People should check this movie out if they haven't heard about it or if they haven't watched it, because it's brilliant. There's stuff in there that like now I watch as a dad and I'm like sobbing. Right, and it's a comedy, and it's really it's brilliant. How many movies? There's movies people cite all the time. I don't want to pull it off the top of my head. This one's a little vague or whatever, but that people will say is a classic. And I remember when they came out, and it was stupid. It was just some stupid movie, right? And that's why I think the system of how many times you're willing to watch it is so important. It also takes the argument out of this conversation. No way, man. It's like nobody's trying to prove anything. Yeah. I love Full Metal Jacket for reasons that you will never understand. And honestly, this whole argument about the whole conversation is like, why the hell would you compete over this? You know what I mean? Like, well, maybe you watched one when you were tired and you don't realize how amazing some of these movies are,
Yeah, really maybe the only point of the conversation even is for those discovering new films, right? It's like a film that I might not encounter, and then someone that I trust says, hey, this movie is really incredible, and then I'm going to watch it.
And I hope that these sort of inspire a few that won't be on the top end list, but they're out there.
Yeah.
Midnight Run, I'd watch that a dozen times. I'll tell you, that would beat, I keep hesitating to say something, but I'll say it I don't know, I can't say it. Because I get quoted, it'll be like, oh my God.
What a tease. But it's a spoiler you're talking about.
Maybe I'll say it later. If you make it through this whole podcast, I'll say it, because then you at least understand some context. If I say it now, you'll stop now and then start quoting Steve Allen as saying something that, like, out of context would be a horrible thing to say.
Okay.
Stick around and I'll tell it to the end. I'll tell you at the end, I swear to God I will.
And the best part is that this generation, they don't have to stick around. They can just click further in the time.
Oh, no! The thing I was going to say is...
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was number 9, right?
Yeah. And just so people know the logic of this all, I just went through a top 100 list. Sorry. We are going to talk about other movies. You're not going to just get a bunch of shit that you already know about, I promise. But to get me going, I just went through the 100 list, rated how many times I'd watch it, right? So anyway, I'm pretty sure Clockwork Orange was made in 1971. I'd watch it 20 times in my lifetime, Could be more. I've already watched it 10. I'm halfway there. And I'm not kidding. Next up on the list, number 8, is Back to the Future. I'm
numero uno.
Is it? Back to the Future is your number 1?
No. I'm saying numero uno, like Back to the Future, just. I'm just clarifying because there's.
Oh, no, of the franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll watch Back to the Future. I believe it was made maybe around 1986.
Yeah. I'm just saying
25 times, but Back to the Future 2 and 3 maybe about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it onto the top.
No, yeah. I'm just saying
they're
for clarification,
tag-alongs. Yeah.
just the first one.
Yeah, they're tag-alongs. Yeah. Okay, so Back to the Future, yeah, I mean, even the people making it didn't think it was going to be something that would ride up on a top 10 list, and it's on the lists, I'm sure.
I'll tell you, in terms of watchability and films that get watched over and over again, Back to the Future is way up there. I hope this not a spoiler on your list, but like a film like Wizard of Oz, made in 1939, to this day, every kid watches it.
Yeah.
Every kid, everywhere, right? That's like...
And I assume scares the shit out of them. I was scared of that movie.
Oh, yeah. And Back to the Future is the same thing. I know
maybe that's what primed me for all this other stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I know my brother's kids, they watch Back to the Future. They've seen it already.
Yeah.
They have books about it. They have T-shirts and stuff. And it's like they're 4 and 8 or whatever. And it's like... That's how timeless it is, right?
My son has Star Wars shit and he's never seen it, and he won't for a long time.
Yeah, there you go.
But to give you something other than Back to the Future on the top 10 list, there's a chance we might go in the future, like, you and I'll be super confused about all these people who are pumped about, like, The Water Boy. That's why I brought it up, because it was my example of, like, who the fuck knows, right? Like, suddenly somebody invents a new genre. I mean, the reason Pulp Fiction is such a good movie is because it's a reinvention of the. Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of people who would argue that it's a rip-off of a bunch of other things, and I'm like, yeah, but the other things I wouldn't watch 29 times, according to my list, which is the next one coming up.
Great
coincidentally.
Great segue.
So Pulp Fiction, when that came out, people were like, that was a rip-off of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I know that. So the pull focus is rip-off of something that was a rip-off of something. Yeah, but I mean, he's the guy who put it all together in a way that's not only commercially viable, which you need to sustain the business, but also something you want to watch and will change your life forever.
And it's a new package.
I'll never touch heroin, mainly because of that fucking movie. That's an effective thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like horror movies do it a lot.
Yeah.
Is that every latest, greatest horror movie, if you watch it, you can pick apart almost every single scare will be from a previous movie. And they make no bones about it, right? It's not a problem that you stole this from this one. For example, It is a great movie from a couple years ago. And almost none of it, maybe like 1 or 2 of its things were original, the scares or whatever that you would have in there. Most of them were from other movies, but the thing is, they put it all together and they made it work in that package. That's why it's so great.
Yeah.
So where did you see Pulp Fiction? You see it on the big theater, on the big screen?
When it came out.
When it came out? Nice.
Yeah. Actually, that was a phase of my life where I knew I was never going to afford university because I was working construction. So I went to university while working construction full time and had to do my homework and buy my books and pay my rent. I was living alone, and it just like I didn't even know how to apply for a student loan. So that lasted a semester, literally. So my whole life I've been chasing my own self-consciousness. So forever I have been cursed to have to prove myself continuously that I'm capable of things. So I went on a rampage studying film and like buying books on theory and lighting and everything I possibly could. Some of the advice I read in a book that was a very sound book that said, one of the best things you can do is just watch everything, and I'm not joking. That's exactly what I did.
I'll tell you, it's not a bad way to learn cinema.
They're like, watch it good or bad. Don't worry about the fucking ratings. Don't worry about. Go in and watch it. Obviously, if you don't have any plans whatsoever making kids cartoons, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe arguably you should. And that was during my trip I got to wander into having no idea what it was. Pulp Fiction, The Blair Witch Project, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Those were all things that I just stumbled into, looking around an empty theater going, with 3 people in there going, are you fucking seeing this movie? Because half the time I'd wait for it to be a cheap night or out, a little later. I didn't mind watching old prints or whatever, because to this day, it's only gotten worse over the decades of people don't teach their kids to do a few things. Look both ways when they cross the street, how to change a car tire, and to shut up in a movie theater. It's so weird. So, I'll go and watch the re-edition of Star Wars. Sorry, everybody, to bring up those feelings. And the guys around me were like, you know, whoa, 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 whoa. And I watched like Terminator 3 or whatever, which is not too bad, by the way. The guy puts on, you know, what's his name? The big guy, the bodybuilder. Just joking. Schwarzenegger. Yeah, not that bad. Puts on the star glasses, and the guy right next to me is like, ooh, had to be the glasses. I'm like, I almost had to leave. I'm like, please stop. Why are you doing this to me?
I know.
Anyway, I know you're a fan. I know you got all the other, I know you got the movie memorized, but Jesus, so I try to go to the emptiest theaters I can.
Right. Yeah,
Anyway,
some people
whatever.
can't go in public. I do think there's... Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I do think there's certain movies that need to be viewed in a crowd, and like comedies. Comedies are always way better with the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
The laughing,
Yeah.
it encourages your own laughter.
Oh, of
and
course,
stuff.
yeah. No, that's true, yeah.
But yeah, some people
I've heard
are-
good things about Rocky Horror, you know,
Yeah,
as an extreme example.
Exactly.
I don't know.
And some people are just terrible in movie theaters, so
No.
yeah. Fortunately, I haven't had that many who are bad.
Oh my God!
I had one
Is
completely...
Rocky Horror not? I'm sorry. Is Rocky Horror not a good example of this rating system? Rocky Horror
Is it?
is
I don't
probably
know.
one of the greater movies made of all time.
I've
because
never seen the whole
puts,
thing.
Well, neither have I, but people watch it hundreds of times. But it's an example of why The Room is a successful movie and whatever, right? Like, even shitty movies can be the best movies, right? And there's a reason.
Yeah, the argument can be made. Yeah.
Could be. I'm not going to fight for it right now, but you see where I'm going.
The differentiation I would make is that they see it in the novelty of going to see it with a group of their friends, which is kind of different from, like, my analogy of flipping channels when you're at home. They're not going to stop on it and watch it through to the end when they're sitting by themselves, whatever. So
Yeah.
But the argument can be made for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
feel like that's a good time to move on to number 6.
Yeah.
Working our way up to 1. Shawshank Redemption.
1994.
What did I say? 95. I guess 95.
Actually, it might be 95.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, who knows? Maybe, you know what? I probably saw it in 95 because I was hitchhiking.
It might be 95. I don't know.
Well, hear me out. We're probably both right. I was hitchhiking in BC, and I walked by a movie store, and I saw a single... No, I remember what I did. I came in, I turned, because they had a giant fucking TV, and I was clearly a vagrant, like a, you know...
Okay.
And, like, I mean, I had backpack, long hair, smelled like shit, you know, like
That sounds
trail
like a
mix
vagrant, yeah.
dribbling out of the back of my backpack. And I was staring at this movie, having watched a lot of movies at this point because of Dad, who's dead by now. Or no, he wasn't dead yet. Not yet. And I'll tell you when. But I'm watching this thing in the video store kind of through the window or something, or just off to the side, I can't remember. And the dude at the store goes, just come in and it's an amazing movie, watch it. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, it just started. So he let me sit there, and I said thank you 100 times. If you can't tell, I'm apologetic and thankful. And I watched that movie on a giant screen. Like, this dude was like, you know,
Wow.
if you could meet Tarantino almost, like, this would be the kind of guy who'd be like, have a seat, man, you're going to love this. And
Yeah.
he'd talk too much and then, like, scare you a little bit and then, like, blow your mind with the movie. And that's what happened. I watched... while hitchhiking for the first time alone in the world, completely alone in the world after high school, watched Shawshank Redemption and had my mind fucking blown.
That's
you know,
pretty great.
yeah, because there's nothing like it before that. I mean, I'm sure there is, but
I'll tell you, Shawshank Redemption is so good. I have a hard time convincing myself that it's not my favorite movie. Like, I make the argument that it's not my favorite movie to myself, and I've convinced myself of that. But I feel like I might get to, like, 10 years from now or something where I just can't defend it anymore that it's not my favorite movie because it's just so good.
I think you better make the same list. Try it.
It's the same reason why TBS plays it year after year, right? Is that Shawshank Redemption wasn't that successful of a movie when it came out,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, TBS got the rights and they played it, and like people in TV do, they just play what people watch.
Yeah.
If you watch it, they're gonna play it again.
Yeah.
And so Shawshank Redemption has been played over and over and over again,
Yeah.
and it's like, to me, that's kind of the earmark of why it's so good, or evidence of the fact that it is so good.
Yeah, and if you, let's say my list came out as like, it's not a bunch of top 100 stuff, it's like, let's say it was, not me, that would never happen probably, but you and I aren't going to see eye to eye, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I was extreme as like Waterboy, with respect, was on my list.
I do like Adam Sandler. Let me make that clear. You know.
Okay, sure.
Waterboy's not my favorite, but I do like Adam Sandler.
Yeah, and I make it clear because I just don't want people to think that it is on my list. It's not. Not that I would be ashamed if it was, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, this all lists. There could be a third person right now with a list that is like, Jesus, really? You know, including The Room, let's say, and whatever, and like some of your guests who've been on. Thank you very much. There's a reason I've never heard of a single movie that the guy from the film pool mentioned. I didn't know any of those movies.
You didn't know any of his movies?
I don't know. I probably did, but essentially I'm like, wow, they are going to be disappointed when when they hear my list.
Yeah.
But my taste leans toward populist movies for the most part, but it does not dismiss in any way some of those other movies that when I get a chance, I'm like, God, I got to get out and see some more of these movies. You know, they're amazing. You know what I mean? So it's just my limited time for the most part, right? I mean, we're all kind of like that. And I got to be honest, like my goal ultimately in my career, I'm studying for the most part things that I would like to make.
And it's
populist for the most part.
As well you should. And I even think cinema is a populist art form, which it really is, and it was founded to be that. So that I think that's kind of who movies are made for, is the people.
Let's put it this way. Yes, and you know what? I feel guilty because I love, you know, Pulp Fiction and, you know, Taxi Driver. These used to be indie-style picks.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, yeah,
and,
real original, dude.
Pulp Fiction is now kind of mainstream. It's become a populist movie.
Yeah, like, and I gotta say, proud I am because I watched that movie in the theater and, like, I came out with eyes like I had just tried a drug. And, like, you know, like, it changed me so much. And I'm like, it wasn't imaginary. Like, it fucking happened. And, yeah, of course it's on a list now. But at the time, it wasn't like, oh, you know, you should really, like, try this movie or whatever. So, I don't know, I guess I'm just saying it's a pure form of reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and like art, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, yeah, there's art out there that I can appreciate. But, you know, I mean, I prefer, you know...
Yeah. No,
I think Glenn Scrimshaw, for example, who does ultra-realistic wildlife, is a genius. You know? Like, what's wrong with that? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's popular. So what? It's in, like, little old retired couples' bathrooms all over the place, prints of it, but it's brilliant.
Yeah,
you know?
and my argument to that also is that sometimes I think things are popular for a reason. So it's like yes, it's sort of...
I think he's pandering to me right now. I know how much he knows about indie film.
Yeah. I don't know Glenn Scrimshaw at all, but for me, the example...
Well, you know, what's his name? The guy, you know, he did all the kids getting a shave.
I like him.
I think he was in Coke ads or something.
Norman Rockwell.
Rockwell, you know, that's the same shit.
I like him.
The Big Eyes painter. You know.
I had it with...
What's his name? Just joking.
I had it with... I had it with Billy Joel, because when I was in high school, it's like... I started to kind of listen to him, and I thought, like, oh, this is like light rock stuff, like I shouldn't be into this, whatever. And sort of the hipster part of your brain says, like, no, I like the stuff that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
And I sort of had the inner dialogue of, like, why do I like this? And it's like, oh, I like it because it's good. And it's not a problem that everyone else likes it.
Yeah.
The reason so many people like it is because it is good, right? Like, I don't have to defend...
Yeah,
that things
absolutely.
are popular, right? Like,
exactly, yeah. And even if you like some shit that other people don't like, you can say, hey, you know, all this is this theory is just not theory, this idea that I go by of how many times it's just an extension of, you know, if you were on a desert island. What would you bring with you? Would you really bring Citizen Kane with you?
Exactly, yeah.
Would you really bring some indie movie that blah, 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 blah? Would you?
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I'd be comfortable with my list. I'd bring that any day.
And maybe you would.
There's a few missing, but I wouldn't, you know. Yeah. And when I do it this way, when I just write down a bunch of great movies or whatever, and then I just write the numbers and then I work it out like this, I've never been disappointed in my list. I didn't look at this and go, oh, that should be here and that should be here. Because if I did, that means my bias is getting in the way because I want everybody listening to think I'm smarter than I am or something.
Right.
So I can defend this list all day long.
Right.
But, you know, if somebody says to me, like, their favorite movie, something that's, like, really fucking abstract, I'm like, you're contrarian. You're contrarian. trust me, if that movie was super popular, it wouldn't be on your list anymore, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Sorry.
It's like maybe you do like Citizen Kane or whatever.
And that's cool, of course.
But if you like one of those movies because of the fact that no one else does, that's when it becomes...
And you know what? If Citizen Kane's on your top 10 list, then you should probably be in your 70s or 80s. Like maybe 90s. Right?
Well, the thing about...
Now, don't get me wrong. I like old movies. There's some old ones on here that are coming up.
I love classic films, and I think Citizen Kane's overrated. I point to the fact that...
It's just an easy one to pick on.
Well, and the thing is that no one liked it when it came out. Like, maybe some people liked it or thought it was good, but it wasn't like this smash hit when it came out. In fact, nobody watched it for 20 years, 30 years after it came out.
Yeah.
It wasn't until some guy wrote an article about it that people started to be like, oh, yeah, I also like that film.
And, you know, it's an ultimate example of how you're biased, not just biased. It's like, you know, if you start worrying, about story structure and whatever, and really start obsessing over it, and then buying into the theory and so on, and the next thing you know, you like the plot to some movie that's not doing real well. And it's like, wait a minute, you know, are you really stoked about this movie because of it's good or because the cinematography is so amazing? Because you're into cinematography,
right?
Or you're into writing or story structure.
Yeah.
Well, your judgment's clouded because you're in the business.
Yeah.
You know, like when, you know, it's like a fiduciary duty to a project. I assume half the people listening to this are in some sort of industry. Yeah. It's like your fiduciary duty to the project is the best interest of the project. And the best interest of the project doesn't start with cinematography or writing or, camera work or your costume. If you think that's what it does, then you're crazy. It's what's in the best interest of the project, and that's why these movies, not one of them am I like, oh, because of the pick a craft.
Right, yeah.
Including directing would be a craft, because all those crafts add up to a movie or a TV series or whatever.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, this list, everything changed around when 24 came out. This list should include all the movies that every film student was told would never exist. Every film student was told, at least up until I took my first year or whatever, that movies can't be more than 90 to 120 minutes because of some experimental films back in the 60s, and I bought it. Right? No. Movie in one sitting. Yes, in fact, I remember the professor, his name, out of the U of R, was like, people would get up and go for a walk and then come back. I wish I listened to come back, because I would have thought of, wait a minute, you can watch the soap operas figured this out years ago, but there are like little screen, silver screen, and all these like, you know, degrading and intentionally degrading terms to keep pros out of that field and just keep the amateurs, so to speak, right? So if you're a real actor, like you could never do a soap opera or whatever, right? 24 is, I mean, sure, there's another example, but 24 is an example of a very long movie that's broken into chunks.
Oh, you're talking 24, the TV
24,
show?
the TV series.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Lost.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones now obviously is its pinnacle almost, but movies are extremely long now. Yeah. And this list really ought to include those movies now.
Yeah, I would not let you include them here, but that's a valid argument.
Exactly,
that it's true that...
I'm not going to try, but I'm saying movies are not only 90 to 120 minutes anymore.
Right.
And if you don't believe that, ask... I wish I could say Kevin Spacey, but... I'm so glad I didn't say Kevin Spacey, but ask Kevin Spacey. I don't know. If people could still listen to Michael Jackson, I got to wonder, can I bring myself to watch his stuff, like his old stuff? Eventually, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, but I bring it up. It's a vague reference, everybody. I bring it up because he gave an incredible speech to, like, I don't know what it was, like the Motion Picture Arts Association or something like that, and said, thank you, Netflix, for proving to everybody that there's a market for a binge-watching show, blah, 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 because of their new medium, which you have to admit is incredible, like, game-changing, and he basically was saying what I'm saying, which is, you know, movies can be as long as you want.
Yeah.
Just make them that good.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that was a rant. Sorry, I knew that would happen.
In Russia, they used to make movies 3.5, 4 hours long because the movie theater was the only place people would go to get proper air conditioning or heating in the wintertime. So they'd make them really long because people would want to go there and stay there for a while to really enjoy an experience.
Yeah.
So it's just that in North America, obviously, people want to be in and out, and they want to go where they want to go.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if theaters should think about airing a movie rather than doing the sequel deal, because it like, oh, it did okay, let's hire a bunch of new crew. Like, no, this is planned from the beginning. We're not going to, and that works. When you have a story that was planned, what's the best trilogy of all time?
It's got to be Star Wars.
Exactly. He knew the story for the most part, right? I mean, you could argue he kind of like, not he, the team. Sorry, I always do that. It's like a habit.
Well, I think
but the team,
I think Lucas had a hand over top of everything.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the hand is not as big as we all imagine. Like,
sure, yeah,
right? I mean, who directed Empire?
I can't remember, but even the second and third scripts were more by Lawrence Kasdan than by George Lucas,
yeah,
right?
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Kasdan fleshed it out and actually, yeah. Yeah, I get you.
I'm not taking away credit from anybody. All I'm saying is just give more to a bunch of people who, don't forget. Like, it's funny, I talked to some people at the screening of I Lived with a Killer the other night, and my whole focus of that was to try to talk about team. But it's so hard. Because it's like, oh yeah, right, there's a whole fucking team there. And you're like, why am I saying I? It's not what I mean.
Well, and the funny thing is, though, is that when you're talking to that audience, they don't want to hear about team anyways, because it's so boring for them to hear the traditional row of,
right.
There's a team. They just want to hear the info, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's forgivable. Heavily forgivable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so we got a little off track there. I guess we better get on to number 5, right?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Or did you have a thought? Okay. So number 5, this is my vague indie.
Right. Okay.
I'm proud of this oldie because I do consider it something I'd want to watch more than Taxi Driver, Clockwork Orange, Back to the Future, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank. I would watch Lawrence of Arabia more than those movies.
Wow.
Lawrence of Arabia is 35. I'd be willing to watch Lawrence of Arabia 35 times.
Wow. How many times have you seen it so far?
12.
12. So that means you have 13 screens left. That means the last 4 years of your life, you're just going to be watching Lawrence of Arabia.
23. More.
So that's one I would like to hear your reasons why, because Lawrence of Arabia is one that I didn't really attach to, or I didn't really see the significance of it. So tell me why you like it.
Every movie so far here is like a goes back to my past, and like Lawrence of Arabia was one that my dad just like, he loved it so much, and I'm like, there's something here, so I watched it, and like it was slow the first few times I watched it because I was very young, because it wasn't that violent, so it's not a big deal. So I think he showed me that when I was like 7. I don't fucking know. Yeah. And so I'm like, Dad really likes it, and then I'd get tired, because it's long or whatever, and then when he died, I'd start watching. I'd watch the whole thing like super stoked because I'm like, oh yeah, and I mean, he showed me appreciation for the actor.
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole, of course, right? Who is that amazing, and like some of these great jump cuts, like he puts on the match. It's very weird. My dad was never a film anything, but like he just had the knack for like, watch this cut. I'm like, you know what I mean, right?
That's what I love about cinema is it's the people's art form.
Exactly.
Is that I know guys who couldn't care less about art or whatever, and they're just watching movies in a basement somewhere, and they have such an appreciation for good movies and good things in cinema. It's just like,
and I'll just say quickly another thing. One of the things in life, it just reminds me of this. It's not like I'm comparing the two, but like my dad would always say, you treat homeless people as good as you treat the president. You treat them with the same respect. And he said that a lot. So like, it's not about your stature or whatever in a caste system or whatever. That's not how he phrased it, but I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah.
So,
it's a shame. I really want to meet your dad now.
I know, he's a cool dude, yeah. He's manic, too. He was manic. It was amazing. Anyway, who knows? Maybe he was really messed up, but I just took the good out of him. I took everything good I could out of him and ignored everything bad. Because we're flawed. We're humans, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no dark secrets there. It's just like, learn from Dad and his mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think because of the two mindsets, and because of the humility, because I call it pulling a Steve Allen, where you you do something you're really confident in, like, I don't even have to give this one a thought, and then like 3 months later you're proven dead wrong, right? When I shoot, in particular, right? Now this is about me. This is when I shoot. You know, it doesn't matter. I can be cryptic. When I shoot, and an actor or an extra has an idea, I listen to them. And no matter how really obvious that won't work, I don't cut them off. I'm not an asshole. I listen to them. I say, like this, to confirm, and they go, yeah. And sometimes they're shocked that I answered them. And I say, here's why I don't think that'll work in this situation, very quickly. Yeah. And then they say, yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't ask my AD to give our AD to give instructions to shut the extras up or the talent up. Yeah. I'm happy to do that. And they usually go, okay. And then once in a while,
there's a great idea.
Somebody's been just observing as a fresh set of eyes, as a non-biased participant, and gives you an idea for free, unsolicited, that will make you that much, your project, which is the best interest of the project, that much better. Yeah. And all it cost was a little respect. Yeah. Not a big deal. Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you, I've gotten better and better at this. And I used to make fun or make a joke or something like that, or you know what I mean, like not to an extra, because you don't want to do that. But now I don't do that shit anymore. Yeah. And I realized, like, I have the confidence finally that I'm not worried about it. I got time. I can take your idea. I can explain to you why it won't work. I'd explain to you how, under what circumstances it would work. Yeah. Or I can try it because I happen to have a minute or two that I'm willing to make up for later. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because those decisions do come to me because I direct and DP. So I guess it is about me a little bit. But yeah, and I love it. And once in a while, I fucking and I'm like, I just gave an unsolicited fist bump.
It hurt a little.
Yeah.
I was surprised, but it's fine.
He's so weak looking. He's so fragile. I didn't realize it would hurt. Once in a while you get this beauty of an idea, and I fucking make sure right in front of everybody that he gets the credit he or she deserves. Yeah. That was a good idea. That was a good idea. Because once in a while you do 6 takes with somebody and they screw up 3 times, and I can't imagine. Some people probably go home and a year later somebody will come up to me and say, out of the blue, hey, I've been thinking a long time about that day and that scene and that take, and I'm like, I don't remember them at all. And they're coming back and apologizing for fucking up a couple takes a year ago. Oh my God, we all moved on. But it's so important to people, this medium, as it should be, because it changes your life. And I'm like, you know what, never, like that can't happen if I can avoid it. One guy I lost my cool with because he kept interrupting me. And I lost. No, it was an actor. Like crew. Unfortunately, they're so used to that stuff that I think crew, sadly, they're hard to coax out ideas and opinions out of on set because they've been kind of beaten down about it.
That's true. And if you're working on certain sets, it's highly discouraged. So. We know our place. So.
I mean, generally speaking, a crew, I'm giving them where, I'm talking about in context too. Like, I'm guessing a professional actor wouldn't give me a shitty idea. Yeah. And a non-professional actor.
I wouldn't be so quick.
Yeah, whatever. We all use our discretion. We all do, and even the person who shouldn't even be speaking right now and doesn't understand the timing on set.
Yeah.
Well, he or she's using their discretion. They're not like trying to be a dork. Once in a while you got that.
That's actually something I never thought about. Is that
I would be shocked if you did what some people do that haven't been on set before. I'm like, Cory, man, are you okay? Like. Yeah. That's a weird thing to say.
But that's a good point.
Like, I'd be worried about your health because you know this so much better than they do.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, is that they probably thought about it and trying to figure out what's the best time to ask this, and that's what they could come up with.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, and then I'll get a bunch of apologies sometimes after they say it. Like, I'm sorry. Because, who knows, over my shoulder, there's probably an angry AD, like, why are you talking, man? Yeah. And they'll say sorry, and I'm like, no. Sure, yeah. Great. They'll apologize, but I will make sure, because I feel like if they've got the guilty vibe, I'll just say, hey, we're all experts in television. You don't have to make television to know what's shitty. So if you see me make a mistake or do something shitty, tell me. And that's usually where I leave it. And they usually have a nice big smile on their face, and as they should. They should go have fun on a set anywhere near like the ones that we work on.
That's true.
And quite frankly, quite a ways up. I don't know why you shouldn't be allowed to have fun on a James Cameron set. You know what I mean? Why? Why does everybody have to be running around with their tail tucked between their legs? It's weird.
It is true that people.
How much better could his shit be if people worked even harder for him and it wasn't for the money or whatever, you know? So, anyway.
Yeah.
I assume it's no secret.
It's yeah. I was gonna say that's a personal.
What if James Cameron hears
a personal call out?
Steve Allen talking shit?
But yeah, there's probably so many people who talk shit about him that it's okay. It is funny that like.
Well, that's how high you can fall from. I always say, you know, some people will say to me, he's got a lot on his shoulders or whatever, and I'll say, so does Steven Spielberg. I've never heard anything that bad about him ever.
Yeah.
All I've heard is good things. Correct me if I'm wrong out there. You know, I know people who've worked with him and they say like, oh my God, he's amazing. He's amazing.
People oftentimes take it too seriously. I can't remember, but Pete LaRocque always had a good anecdote about about how something about relating it to like atomic bombs and how that's less serious or something like that.
I'll have to ask him. Yeah.
I think the joke is like. He tells this joke about it's like doctors operating, and then they end up like fucking up, and the guy dies, and they turn to each other, and it's like, don't worry, at least we're not making film. It's something like that.
Okay, I gotta hear it.
Yeah, Pete will have to tell it. It's a good one.
All right, I will. I'll get him to tell me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we never talked about Lawrence of Arabia, and that's the one we could probably dive the deepest in.
Yeah.
But
So tell me what makes you like really.
I'll tell you what it incurs in me. Like, I like heavy metal. I like Metallica. That's the lightest of the heavy metal. I like heavy fucking metal, like death metal and stuff.
Swedish death metal, yes.
Yeah, I mean, some of it gets a bit weird, but, you know, I can appreciate it because my mind slows it down into melodies and actually, like, skips beats or double beats and just actually hears different melodies that are usually classically influenced and highly technical, right?
Yeah.
And I love it. And I was always the dude at all these metal shows, by the way, who'd never wear black. So I'd be just like whatever.
Out like a sore thumb.
With like a fucking dress shirt, a collared shirt.
That's hilarious.
And I always felt like weird, and people were weird around me because I didn't like, you know, I had long hair, but then I cut it off, and I wasn't afraid to wear colors, you know what I mean? Because somebody told me if you wear all black, which is ironic because everybody in the film industry usually should, so they're not bouncing light, or reflecting. So I didn't necessarily wear death metal shirts and shit. I always felt like an oddball, and then just literally like 3 days ago, a study came out that people who listen to death metal, they you know, it's just a study, right? So it's not like a scientific fact or anything. Yeah. It actually invokes feelings of confidence and was it confidence and happiness or something like that? And I even texted my buddy, I'm like, joke's on all them. You weren't feeling dark at all. You're all feeling inspired and confident or whatever.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, but the reason I brought up death metal is because the way this relates to Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, I'm with bated breath over here to hear how it relates to.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
Because I couldn't think of more polar opposites to begin with.
Why did I go into that tangent? I wish I could rewind the tape.
You were saying something about somebody told you something about colored shirts.
Yeah, before that.
Okay.
What a fucking
death metal.
I feel sorry for people listening to this. Oh my god.
So heavy metal relates to Lawrence of Arabia. How?
Oh shit. It does. It's a stupid point that I always be like, I'll give some context, and then I'll come back to it, and I'm like,
And then you get the context and you forgot the point.
Yeah.
Classic. Hate mail can be directed to...
Yeah. It's funny because I want to tell you why my mind does that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go on another tangent.
We'll never get back.
We'll never get back to Lawrence of Arabia. Oh man, I hope somebody makes it this far. Now this is probably the time that I should probably actually tell the thing that I won't tell till the end, because they'll be wandering around at the end.
Tell it now.
Right? They'll be wandering around at the end, and they'll never find it.
Exactly. It'll be even better. This will be the way to actually hide it.
So for those who really are listening this long, I appreciate it very much. What I want to say is I don't think I can ever watch because it's so sad. I know it'll make me really sad and give me a downer for a long time. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch Schindler's List.
Really?
I don't think I can.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
Wow.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I'm scared of it. I'm scared because it's made by such a brilliant mastermind, genius, like, you know what I mean? And his team, by the way. Oh, yeah. It's made by this mastermind genius and his team that it's probably documented something so important in history, make me so sad that it'll fuck me up for a while. I can't watch it. And then I got to ask myself, what's a better movie? Like, that might be a more important movie, but what's a better movie for me is other movies. I can't do it.
And that's true, is that...
and if I said that without context, people would be like, Steve doesn't like Jews or something. Like, no, it's not that. It'd make me so sad.
No,
I don't think I can do it.
It is a profoundly sad movie, and I'm of the personality that, like, I just want to hear the truth, no matter what it is. So
me too.
Ever since I was even young, it's like, I'll watch a sad movie as long as if it's telling me the truth, and that's what I want to hear. And then I'll deal with it myself. So... But that's exactly what Schindler's List is. There's no getting around it. It's incredibly sad when you think about the loss and the things that were committed.
There's a difference between best movies of all time and most important movies of all time.
For sure.
And if you're not trying to be contrarian and your list has most important movies, very different topic. Very different topic. In which case, Citizen Kane definitely belongs on that list.
That's interesting. That's going to make me think about whether or not I have any movies that are on my list that make me feel bad, because there are some movies that I acknowledge that are incredible, including Schindler's List, that do make me feel very sad. So you wouldn't really traditionally think of them as your favorite movies. Yeah. So that's interesting.
So maybe we can do a follow-up podcast on most important movies of all time.
Oh, that would
be for the people out there who want to hear something that's a little different.
Exactly. That's actually a great topic. Next time I have you on, that's what we'll discuss.
Okay, let's do it. That'd be a good reason to do it again, like after,
whatever period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Next time I'm in town.
When you've done 20 or 30 of them. Oh, yeah? Oh, cool. Yeah, good.
So,
yeah.
We'll see.
You should talk to Zimmer. Zimmer be a fun interview.
I should actually. That's a great point.
He's really interesting, obviously.
He won't say much though, but
no, that's the beauty of it.
He will to me though. Actually, that's the great thing about it, is that if we get the recorder, he talks to me. Like
you should just secretly mic him. Yeah, just so it helps him.
That'd be the best part.
It's not a thing you would say he would like, I'm sure.
No, I know, but that'd be the best part is that I interview him the whole thing, and then it's only at the end I'm like, I was wearing the wire.
You should.
That's my way to say.
I think he would love it. You know what? I know he would love it because he loves shit that only he gets, right? Like, he loves to, prank people. Like, he's definitely Andy Kaufman reincarnate.
Yeah.
Speaking of which...
That would be a great prank, though.
Now, it's a good time to come up with one of those movies, by the way.
Yeah.
That I think are incredible. I don't know if it's, ultra important or ultra good or whatever, but a very important one to me is Being There.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The reason I like Being There so much is because of my dad. I came home one day, and as usual, he was watching a movie, right? And this is years later, too. This is I'm 24. I didn't go that long, 22 or something.
So what year? So this is well after Being There came out.
Yes. Okay, he would just rent movies, man. He just fucking watch them all day. He got burnt out on English, right? Burnt out. I think he snapped a brain muscle
on the language of English?
In English studies, right? As an English major.
Okay.
And would only read Pulp Fiction-y,
historical fiction or whatever,
because he was deeply entrenched in literature for so long.
Right, yeah.
But his mind was so unbelievable that he would keep reading it. So movies were just his jam, right? So I come home one day and he's watching what I didn't realize was, Being There.
Yeah.
With, the party, what's his name?
It stars Peter Sellers, I believe, and it's directed by Hal Ashby.
Thank you. Exactly. I love it. Yeah. So Peter Sellers, and it's about this guy, and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, because if you're listening to this, if you've been this far, you should definitely check it out.
It's an interesting film.
It's on the Richard Allen top list, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I come home. He's making macaroni and cheese or something, and he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, how is it? And he's like, I don't know. And then he's like, fuck this movie. And he gets up and he finished making his macaroni and cheese. And he's like, this fucking, what the fuck? This doesn't even make sense. Who's this idiot? Come on. So, but he's still watching.
Yeah.
And then he sits down and eats his macaroni. I'm like, oh, it looks kind of cool. He's like, yeah, I don't know. It's fucking stupid, I think, but whatever. And then we watch the end, and in the last shot, he drops his, I'm not exaggerating, like drops his fork in his bowl and goes, and turns to me and he says, that might be the best movie I've ever seen.
I love it. That's so great.
And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't even see the rest of it, and I'm like, I got it. I kind of got what was happening.
Yeah.
So I rewatched it recently, and it really inspired me. And Zimmer reminds me of that character.
Right, yeah.
In a way where, and it's funny because I told him to watch it, and then I said it reminds me of you, and I'm sure he's super offended or whatever, but it's like, no, it's just, and now a spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, stop listening right now. It's just that he's completely underestimated. Completely fucking underestimated everywhere he goes, and that's why. You know, I'm sure he's probably like, you think I'm a simpleton or something? I'm like, no, man, you're fucking underestimated, and you know shit that other people take an hour to figure out sometimes.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's very similar to Harvey, if anyone has seen Harvey in that respect.
I haven't seen
Harvey.
it.
Harvey is a film with Jimmy Stewart, and he has a friend who's an invisible. Well, I want to be careful what I say, but he has a friend. His best friend is a 6'2" rabbit.
Okay.
That no one else can see.
Yeah.
And then his family. Well, I don't want to get into the spoilers, but anyways, they assume he's dull, that he's slow in the head, or that he's seeing things.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, you kind of realize that, like, not necessarily slow. He just realized that it's greater to have this thing than to not have it.
Right. That's amazing.
So
that's cool.
It's very interesting.
I better check that out.
Piece to, it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
Being there, it's funny talking about being there. I haven't seen it since film school. I'll have to watch it again because I'm sure I'll have a much better appreciation for it now than I did then.
I think it ages just like a wonderful wine. It's quite good.
It's one of those things you can watch it on the surface and it's just about this one thing, but when you truly understand it and understand the underlying story that's being told, it's so much better.
Oh,
so I'm sure I'd have a much better appreciation.
And you know what I just found out, because I showed it to Zimmer and he had one impression, and I'm like, no, man, it's this. He's like, oh, I suppose. I'm like, wait a minute, what did you think of it? So I Googled it, and I'm like, there's actually a few different interpretations, like 4 interpretations of it.
That's always fun,
It gets better and better, I mean, I'd love to just get into a heavy spoiler right now and give you my interpretation of it if you want, but...
Ooh. Let's save that one for the next one, because it's not fresh enough in my mind that I would be able to understand. So I want to rewatch it so that I know what you're talking about, so that I can appreciate what you're saying.
Okay, so should I move on to the next one?
Yes.
For the last person,
we never got the
dude still listening.
We never got the connection between Lawrence Arabia and heavy metal, but
it'll probably pop in later.
If it pops in, let me know. Yeah. Otherwise, it's soldier on. The next one is
Goodfellas. Number 4 on the list.
1993.
Oh, I had 91.
Oh, no, 91. You're right.
Was it? I'm guessing. I'm 100% guessing.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Am I really?
I believe you are. Yeah.
We better Google these as we go. Maybe at the end. We'll Google them. Hey, you know what? Here's what we'll finish it. We'll Google at the end every movie and make sure we get the dates right. Because I know that's what... Oh, I keep tapping the table. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry to your eardrums.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, so you're closer.
Yeah.
I'm even more wrong on Goodfellas. 1990.
90. There you go. Yeah.
So I
would have watched it. I think I would have watched it on VHS for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I remember watching it in 90. Yeah.
I'm so drunk. 93. I never
it's
said
weird,
that.
Right? Like I literally sometimes look at Zimmer and can't remember his name, but I'll fucking get the dates on those right all the time. It's so weird, eh?
That's great. I love to say it just to learn it too, right? So that now I didn't know, now I'll hopefully remember for next time. 1990.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, me too. Yeah. So Goodfellas. Moving on. No, just kidding. I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's like a crescendo,
Classic mob film. True story. Almost word for word. What
is it really?
Yeah, almost word. I
didn't know that.
I've read the book, which was written by Henry Hill, the main character.
Right.
And
that's right. I did know that.
And the movie is a very accurate representation of it. Yeah. It's not my favorite mob movie because it's two different movies, and in fact, so the thing is, I follow the mafia or La Cosa Nostra, whatever you want to call it, the Italian mafia. I've been pretty interested in it my whole life, so I just kind of study and stuff.
Sure.
And so the reason I don't like Goodfellas is the same reason why old mobsters don't like the new mob, is that they got into drugs and ruined what happened. So the movie.
The good old days.
Yeah, exactly. So Goodfellas becomes a drastically different movie once he starts heavily doing drugs and dealing a lot, right?
Yeah.
It becomes a completely different movie.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like it, but it's true, so how can you not?
Yeah.
How can that be a problem?
Yeah.
So, but tell me why you like Goodfellas.
Oh, you know what? It's just a fucking romp. It's like just a real fun,
That's
you
true.
know. I mean, I don't know a person alive. I mean, this applies a lot to young boys and men, you know, like who don't imagine themselves as characters. And maybe is why there needs to be far more female leads and characters and whatever. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, my wife won't watch it. But, you know, she will not get into a war movie like I will or a mob movie like I will, right? Because it's not about young ladies, you know, young women or men or whatever, right? Anyway, but yeah, you imagine yourself, what would it be like to be a mobster? That's crazy, and you got this crazy fucking wild story, and you got this quirkiness, like, that you never are exposed to as anybody if you live outside of New York. It's pretty unique,
And
right?
that's the thing is that, like, there's people who, for them, that's kind of reality. They know guys like that, and they know the whole scene. For us out here, it's something we've never seen in real life, right?
You know, it's almost like, I don't know, I suppose the Godfather is like the Citizen Kane of mob movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like Goodfellas is up there as like, it's as important to mob movies as Godfellas or as Godfather is. You know, and I think for me, I'd rather watch it more, even though Godfather is obviously incredible. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna pretend that Godfather's a better movie.
So no, but I wanna finish the analogy. So if Godfather is Citizen Kane, Goodfellas, what's Goodfellas equivalent to Citizen Kane?
I'm not gonna tell you because it's my favorite movie.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, is it? It's my second favorite.
Okay, good. I'll keep that in mind.
I will remember that. Don't let me forget the analogy.
Yeah. Outstanding. I'm glad that you not only that you have one, but you know it and it's on the list. That's brilliant.
Yeah. It's amazing. This list. I mean, I didn't even try. And as I look at the order, I'm like, that's perfect for my opinion of what is the best movies for me.
Nice.
You know, which is all that counts, is you, right? So
that's all I want to know.
So Goodfellas. I mean, what can I say? You know, and I want to lump really quickly in there. I think an honorable mention is Cape Fear, the remake, obviously. You know, the original's pretty good too, but Cape Fear, the remake is something else, you know.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a little embarrassed that there's no...
I typically don't like honorable mentions. You know, I like people that have
No. We
the
talk.
top
Sorry,
10,
there's no other way to get into that other than you know, Cape Fear is also really good, and the reason Cape Fear is really good in my books is because that's one of those movies that, you know, I remember one of the first times hearing the commentary years after, and he's like, Scorsese's like, this is when we realized we could do this. We can really make a commercially successful movie, and that just sent a bolt of lightning into me. Like, you could be part of that. You could be part of that.
Absolutely.
You know.
Wow, nice.
And he spoke about it as a team. Anyway.
Okay, quickly before we move on from Goodfellas, what's your favorite moment in Goodfellas? There's lots of quotes.
Oh, getting hit in the head with the bat in the end of the narration.
Okay.
Well, that's without a doubt. I mean, and then maybe you look at the helicopter chasing with his eyes all red, and Ray Liotta's just a fucking genius, you know. So yeah, I mean,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it does remind me.
That's fine.
Remember the wife? I can't remember her name. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's like got the jewels. I think she's shoving them in her bra or something, right?
She plays a psychiatrist in Sopranos. Her name is Lorraine Bracco.
The scene when they're raiding the house and she's panicking with the cocaine and stuff reminds me of the scene from The Jerk. When he's like, he's lost his fortune and Steve Martin's leaving the house. He's like, I don't need any money. I don't need anything. I don't need any of this stuff. Except for this. He like grabs a lamp and this and grabs a chair and he starts leaving the house just carrying some random shit. Anyway, yeah, you know, I can watch The Jerk, I'm sure, in my life 9 or 10 times, so that ain't on the list.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
Goodfellas?
After Goodfellas is 2001.
2001, A Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey, I'm guessing 66.
Yeah, I don't know that one at all, actually.
Maybe a little earlier, like 65, because I'm sure it took a while to film.
I was thinking a little later. Was it before they went to the moon?
Yes.
Okay, so before 63, I guess.
I'm pretty certain it was before they went to the moon, but I don't know.
1968 is what they say.
68?
When did they go to
the moon? It was very short, 69, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The reason, one of the reasons I love it, first of all, I fucking love space because, you know, I gave up years, not years, but when you don't have faith in a supreme being that even notices you exist.
Okay.
Like, for example, like an ant farm. You know what I mean? Like, there might be a supreme being to the ant farm, but essentially, you know, it's not going to like necessarily meddle with my existence. Well, as wonderful as that supreme being might be, it might be irrelevant.
I'll tell you about him sometime.
So, yeah, I know, I understand.
Okay.
If that's the case, I need to very fully appreciate what I can know.
Okay.
You know, with fairly observable, you know, whatever, unspiritual. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on spirituality at all. I mean, I got it. It's just that my spirituality comes from this infinite, unbelievable thing that is space. So my wife will often say, you know, I'm not into space. You're into space because, you know, whatever, but I'm not into space or things like that because it doesn't relate to me. This is not part of my existence. All I got is science and space. So I fucking go crazy for it. I mean, like, dude, like if I want to wake up in the morning or go to bed, I start putting on science videos and podcasts and shit. So 2001 is just this thing. And I read the books, and like, which is rare for me, you know.
What book is it based off of?
Not reading, I can read, but I don't usually like compare movies to books all that much because I think it's silly.
Yeah.
It's like comparing plays to paintings, you know.
Yeah. What book is it based off of?
It's literally 2001 and A Space Odyssey in 2010.
Who wrote it?
What's his name? Clarke, Arthur C. Clarke. He turned out to be a pedophile, I think, years later, which was a downer.
Is that the same guy who did the like Total Recall, all those ones? Like, no, that's Philip K. Dick.
No.
So, Arthur C. Clarke. What else did he do?
It's a generation or two before that. Mostly science fiction stuff.
Okay.
You know, he probably did something. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. Not the tip of my tongue.
I wouldn't ask other than his name is so familiar to me.
Yeah. Oh
so
my God! I better Google that whole thing. You know what? Scratch that. I don't know. I know a famous science author turned out to be a pedophile. Ignore that. I don't fucking know. Maybe here. Let's look it up.
It is written by.
It
was written by Arthur C. Clarke. Whether he is a pedophile.
Oh God! What have I done?
Remains to be seen. Who knows?
No, it wasn't. No, you know, I'm wrong. It's not Arthur C. Clarke. It's another science fiction author.
Who is it? Was it Philip K. Dick?
Yeah, sorry. Oh my God. Arthur C. Clarke.
Mr. Clarke, if you're listening, just kidding.
Yeah, Mr. Clarke's estate, I'd like to say for the record. Anyway, no, one of the big science fiction guys turned out to be, who was it? It was like, I feel like I wanted to, somebody look it up. Anyway, somebody send me a text or something if they figure it out. Anyway, that was embarrassing.
So 2001. Do you consider it to be a science fiction film? Or sci-fi, I guess? Like, obviously it is science fiction.
I'm going to get upset pretty quick, yeah.
But do you consider it like that, or do you consider it a drama, or like, what do you kind of classify it as?
I classify it as science fiction.
Okay.
I know the year roughly, I was off by a couple, but I know it came before the lunar landings because apparently some scientists and engineers watched it and said, we should design the gloves like that, or like they took inspiration. And like some of the designs were like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like
I heard,
rounded gloves or whatever.
I heard they took the whole filming aspect of it from 2001, that the moon landings never happened, and that Kubrick shot it.
Oh, yeah, we started on that. Oh, my God. On our third podcast, can we talk about conspiracy theories? Because, like, I'll get fucking worked up.
I would love to. Have you seen Apollo 11?
Oh, stop. Yeah, no, I need to right away, yeah.
Oh, wow. I want
to see how they faked it. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
no, I mean, obviously.
I watched it yesterday, actually. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
It's funny.
Stop. Don't tell anyone.
The part that I loved the most, actually, was
don't tell me. I don't want to know. I gotta watch it. Don't do it. No, you can't.
It's not spoiler. It's not spoiler. The part that I loved the most was not even like the
when they stick that American flag in there and get an erection.
Yeah. Through their spacesuit.
Yeah.
No, the best part for me was actually they'd have these big wide shots of the crowd watching the launch and everything like
I
that.
know, yeah.
And it was so fascinating for me, who was never there during 1969, to see what everyone's wearing and see the knickknacks they're holding and to see like basically a slice of life
And they're
from
little
that time period.
useless 8mm.
No, exactly. That was the best part to me, is see all the technology and see, like, because it was almost like traveling back in time to be in 1969. So that was the coolest part to me.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Was seeing the people going about their regular lives and and this is what they act like and how they dress and stuff like that. But yeah, a must see and on the big screen, I would think.
You're right. I'm glad you reminded me. Like, I got kids now, so like watching every single movie, no matter what, it's not an option.
Yeah,
it's
you
really
could watch
hard.
it with the kids.
I could?
You could. There's no swearing or nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I should take my son.
Yeah, it might be a little loud, but other than that, all it is just them traveling to space, and it's cool. Like, it's all the real footage. That's all it is.
Right, because there's a bunch of like 72 mil just lying around that nobody can use.
It's funny. Some of it looks so much better than films you see now.
Yeah.
It's just like hilarious.
Yeah.
So
that period piece.
Film holds up, I'll tell you.
So just quickly on the science fiction question, why did I remember that? On the science fiction question, I love science fiction. I love twists at the end. If anybody's out there and wants to make a science fiction film,
I think it's the first science fiction film on your list, for the record.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Who loves science fiction.
Yes, because one of the little drawbacks to science fiction is that usually you get the twist, and it's kind of like you can only watch this twist so many times. Like one of the most important, one of the more on a list somewhere, I don't know, it won't be on anywhere near my list, is of most important films of all time would be something like Blair Witch. I only watched it twice.
Right.
I showed my dad that movie and fucking blew his mind. He was looking at me like angry, like, is this real or not? Is this real or not? He said that like 4 or 5 times, like chain smoking while he watched Blair Witch. Yeah. And he was smarter than me, and about 3/4 of the way through, he goes, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
It was for me. It was right to the credits. I saw director, and I was like, "Oh," because I had no clue.
No,
right? Anyway,
and that's one that like I've only seen it once, I believe, actually. But there's no denying its importance as a film, because it changed everything. It changed how all horror movies are shot now. It's like it changed a lot of things.
Yeah, so. I wouldn't be upset if it was on somebody's list. Even though they wouldn't watch it 100 times or take it with them to an island. That's a big deal, that movie.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into, like, making a movie at all costs because it's just burned into your brain.
Yeah, for indie film and for horror, that movie changed
exactly,
the game. Yeah.
So, I mean, this list is on a list, is under the parameters of best movie, which we defined earlier as, or I defined earlier as, I guess.
Yes.
I think we agree roughly on that. Anyway.
Roughly, yes.
So 2001, I want to say one last thing about science fiction. I remembered. I'm so upset at what happened to science fiction. I don't think there's been a science fiction movie made for a long time.
Wow.
I don't know what the hell these movies are that they're saying are science fiction. I'm like, this isn't science fiction. This is a comic book movie or something. It's like, what's happening? Yeah. No, this science fiction is like, I don't even know where the fuck it went. I wish that was my big thing, because I'd be like writing a science fiction script right now.
I do think there's a lot more science fiction shows, TV shows, than there are movies. Interstellar. Science fiction.
Which I loved. And
it's almost more drama, but there's so much going on that you have to classify it, I think, as science fiction.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not even 100% sure if The Martian, 2014 or something, 15?
That's one I wouldn't know because it's so recent. Those are the ones. That's why I love to do that, is because the recent ones that I've seen, I never know the year. So Martian, I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. I'm a little vaguer on it.
2016,
because my brain's
15,
getting old.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
14, I could almost guess.
Yeah.
But so you're saying about The Martian?
So The Martian...
2015.
2015, yeah. The Martian, I don't know if that actually quantifies as science fiction by like the classical definition, but I'll give it a pass in the sense that, like historical dramas, movie makers are finally like getting hip to like Google, and like that people might actually give a shit about the historical accuracy. So the guy who wrote that, I don't know if you know the story, I don't want to take too long, because if you know, you know, and if you don't, you can find out a lot better for better sources than me.
Yeah.
The author wrote it chapter by chapter, like a serial, one of those publications or whatever. Yeah. Shared it with as many scientists as he could, along with fans. and said, "Is this accurate? What would you change?" as an open invitation to change it. And they gave him feedback, and then he rewrote the chapter.
Wow.
And he did that chapter by chapter, made it available for free, tried to get it spread a little more, and then Amazon Prime or whatever said, you need to at least charge $1, so he charged $1. And then, of course, they got a hold of this fucking brilliant script.
Wow.
And it's all based on scientists saying, plausible, pretty plausible.
Wow.
I think the biggest fake in it, which happens right away, it's not even close to a spoiler, is a sandstorm that probably wouldn't be realistic because the density of the atmosphere is not quite thick enough. So despite being 100-mile-an-hour wind, it's like, only about 4% of Earth's, density or whatever. So it's not, it's probably not going to, it's not like you're getting hit by a tornado. But that's it. Everything else is like, yeah, that's kind of the shit you'd have to do.
That's fascinating. Usually when writers consult the experts, it's so late in the game, and they just want to be confirmed or not confirmed, right? They're not looking for input to the story. They're just looking for, like, is this close enough to reality? So that's really impressive that he took it and changed.
And I'm working on a project right now.
Cutting edge. You heard about it here first.
That I'm not going to tell you about. But I will say that's exactly the lesson that needs to be learned there. Like, how else would anybody in Saskatchewan stand out from this fucking international juggernaut of like entertainment that's just crushing everything right now, without you got to stand out. And that's the thing where it's like, okay, yes, historical, that's what we do. I mean, thankfully, our background is documentaries, so. Let's get this shit right. You can't make documentaries for 25 years and then completely screw it up on your drama.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who loves true stories in any fashion or form, whatever, because I like the truth. I just like things that are real, so I love a true story. And when a film has an embellishment that's not true, but it makes the movie better, I'm less forgiving of that than I am something that makes the story clearly not better told, but is true. Like Goodfellas, for example. Where it's like, that's not the ending I would write to that story, but it's true.
It's okay.
So I'll accept it, and I'll say, like, I have no fault with it, because that's the truth. That actually happened. Like,
and if anybody disagrees with you, all I gotta say is documentary. Okay, next movie?
Yeah.
All right. Number 2.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Number 2 on my list.
Sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
It came through in 70 millimeter at IMAX. Did you see 2001 in 70 millimeter at the IMAX?
No. I missed it.
Boom. Big disappointment.
Big disappointment.
Christopher Nolan, I heard he supervised the print, the 70 millimeter print. And
Chris Truffaut saw it, and apparently it was also a bit extended.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not exactly the same. Now, don't get me wrong, I would have sat through anything, and he did too.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. I mean, yeah, I missed it, but it's kids, right? I mean, like...
Right, yeah. Changes your life.
You know what? I'll tell you one thing right now. If Dad was around, he would say, you're not going to go watch fucking some old movie from the 60s. You're going to take care of your kids, and that's all it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Which is fair.
I.e., he was also the guy who said, you got to have kids.
The what?
You got to have kids. He's like, what do you have to live for if you don't have kids? And he's like, literally, you're the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Like, you have to have kids. You should do it. Anyway.
I really want to meet this man that I'll never be able to meet.
You can see his paintings. I'll show you his paintings at least.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
I've seen a couple, but yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So number 2 on my list is Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket. You have a lot of Kubrick. I don't know if you noticed. I would dare say he's your favorite filmmaker.
If you ask me cold, like, gun to my head, I'd be like, oh, Kubrick, I think. Yeah, Kubrick. And then right behind that would probably be, of course, of course, right? I mean, anyway, I'm not embarrassed to say these popular directors are my favorites. Anyway.
No, Kubrick is,
but I got a good reason, I think. It's not because of film school.
Well, Kubrick, there you go. That's even better. I like that. But Kubrick is not an unfashionable choice either. He's respected in art circles.
Yeah. I feel bad for some of the actors that worked with him. Apparently it's a rough go. But anyway, so Full Metal Jacket, I think, was made in '89.
Right? I would think that's very close. I'll check it.
I bet you it was filmed in '88 and probably released in '89 on VHS or something.
So that actually...
I've never thought about it before. I have no idea. 87? Wow. Okay. So I probably watched it on VHS in '89.
But
I certainly didn't see it in the movie theater. I was a little kid.
Okay.
I was like 11.
And I don't want to gloss over it. You brought up he wasn't very good to his actors. So I'm curious what your thoughts about that are. In terms of like
Probably talk about Christian Bale.
some directors have almost no rules in terms of like whatever it takes to get.
No, that's
right?
not necessary.
So what do you think is like the lines of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable for a director to do if they think it'll get the performance out of an actor?
I don't think that any movie is worth permanent trauma.
Okay, that's good.
And I think you should, you could probably argue if you think that's true, well then maybe, think about Twilight Zone the movie or something,
Yeah.
So that's an extreme example, but like there is a fucking line.
That's
and
good.
Mental trauma is unacceptable. That's not necessary.
Yeah.
I hope I haven't seen too many movies where like, because honestly, I don't care how important. Okay, you don't know at that moment that your movie is going to be one of the most important and influential movies of all time, and Twilight Zone definitely wasn't.
Yeah. What happened on Twilight Zone? I don't know that one. That's
oh man, I mean, again, there's better places to learn this. An overzealous director ordered a helicopter to fly too low against his best wishes.
This is the one that Peter always talks about.
Giant fire effect went off and caused a massive updraft of hot air threw the gimbal, collective pitch completely off whack on the helicopter. The helicopter fell off of the balancing marble, so to speak, and of course that's an exponential fall, and it just went whoop and just like fell like the end of a bell curve onto the head of 3 actors. And it's on film, yeah. Oh no, they're gone, yeah.
Oh man.
It's definitely one of those like, it's not a hypothetical, it's an anecdotal, like, there is a reason for safety.
Yeah.
There's a reason for protocol. There's a reason for insurance. There's a reason for not focusing and losing your fucking mind because you think you're making... Fuck your career. It's not worth somebody's health.
Yeah.
If somebody... I mean, okay, it's a calculated
and there's
risk.
Degrees. There's degrees.
I'm sure I've given several people a bit of a cold. Maybe a little frostbite on their ears or something like that, you know what I mean? But I would never compromise somebody's mental health or their physical, like lifelong health. And that recently was in a series we just shot. My wife's actually a master's in educational psychology, and we're doing subject matter with murderers and serial killers and shit that have children involved. So when we shot that, that show is not worth traumatizing a child for the rest of their fucking life.
Absolutely.
Right? Any more than the music industry's worth it, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was very, very cognizant. I told everybody, let's all not just think this is about us, because the more important person right now, the higher priority than this show, is this child of a parent that we were asked to come work almost for free. Yeah. We have a real onus towards those people, like a real responsibility that supersedes the success of the show, because the higher priority is the well-being of the company and of the industry and whatever, and making some poor kid traumatized is not worth it. So that's my line, and we avoided it by just pretending and faking and then going and shooting the real scene when they were out of the room. So we just got the things we needed of the kid, like their face staring up at nothing or somebody just not, and then they were long gone. And then let's say if there was a gun involved, the gun would come out when they're gone, and they were never in the same shot together. Yeah. I mean, I didn't bother doing a split screen. I could have done that, but it wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? So we never pointed a prop gun at a kid so that he wakes up these nightmares that his dad's trying to kill him or something.
That's good. And I remember some of that because I was there for some of that, and I actually want to commend you on that. That's a good job, and glad you did it that way.
And you know what? I'm not positive I would have been so aware 10 years ago. I mean, thank God. I'm like, oh my God, right? I didn't realize you could do that kind of damage to a human being so young.
And then
or an adult.
Yeah.
We had one adult who's like, this is not good. I don't like it. And I just called him and said, hey, I'm really sorry that it went that way. And just so you know, the person you played, has very good reasons. Like, you're not doing her a disservice. Like the last line of one of the people was like, I want to do this so more people know. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's okay, So anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of about finding where the line is. I know there's a famous story about Kramer versus Kramer. I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
Oh yeah, no, I know the story.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and actually,
what's his name again?
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman was apparently really brutal.
Yeah.
And like, didn't he like hit her?
Well,
Did he hit her, or he did something really fucking like?
I
messed
didn't,
her
I
up?
didn't even hear about that. But what
I
I
think
heard,
he slapped her.
what I heard was that
It's not in the movie though.
what I heard
Wasn't it worth
was
it?
that he was talking to her about her husband who had just died recently, John Cazale, who I think is one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah.
Only did about 5 movies,
Yeah.
and 3 or 4 of them are nominated for Best Picture. This is the guy who played Fredo in The Godfather.
Yeah.
He's in The Deer
Yeah.
Hunter. He's fucking
Whoa.
incredible. And I think, so anyways,
Hey, let me cut you off really quick. If anybody remembers a time, because there's a lot of people who've been on set and stuff, that I did that wrong, I'm serious. Contact me. I want to remember. Because there's probably times where I didn't really think this clearly.
Right.
And, like, maybe I did. I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. It's not like my weird guilty conscience or whatever. But if anybody remembers that, I'd love to know if they saw it happen. Anyway, keep going.
And then Dustin Hoffman, and trying to elicit a certain response from
Yeah.
Meryl Streep,
Yeah.
started yelling at her and berating her and telling her how her husband's death, which was from illness, was her fault. And all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I actually had quite liked Dustin Hoffman until I heard that, and I was like, that's too far. Because even no matter the apology that follows it or explanation, once you hear something, it's
Yeah.
always going to be in your brain.
That's right.
And so she's always going to kind of think of that and hear that, and it'll be part of her subconscious forever.
Yeah.
I think that's too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, what was the other thing? Wasn't there like a Me Too accusation against Dustin Hoffman a
I
couple
don't
years
know.
ago?
I don't know.
I think there's something else too. I don't know. I mean, like, that's the thing. This business attracts oddballs. It just does.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lure that attracts oddballs who have the ability to do hyper focus or obsess or
Right, yeah,
whatever, and like, there's going to be oddballs, and all you got to do is just like, okay, is this oddball healthy or unhealthy for them and themselves, people around them, and the industry, and like the project you're working on?
Yeah.
And like, he's probably an oddball. I mean, I guess he's probably like a weird dude. A lot of them, like, what's his name? The guy from Back to the Future, the dad.
Yeah.
McFly.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover, you know what I mean? Like, he's a genius, but it's like, there's only so much that the industry can tolerate or whatever, you know what I mean? And like, it's something I think anybody who's in the industry needs to, like, you need to be aware of your mental health. You need to be able to, like, identify, like, I'm not perfect, and like, what is it about me that's different, and like, take a close look at that and like, acknowledge it and work on it.
That's an interesting thing. I watch professional sports a lot, and
See, exactly.
and
even you.
And recently, yeah, exactly. Recently, they've really started to take an onus of the fact that like these players that we've hired for our team, they're our responsibility to a certain extent. So that when they have problems, it's because we're employing them. It's our responsibility to kind of look out and make sure things are going okay.
Yeah.
And that's something I can guarantee you that almost no movie studios did back in the day.
No.
Unless you were a major star, right? If you're Clark,
They cover it up.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
least,
If you're Clark Gable and you have an affair, they'll cover it up.
Yeah.
But if you're Clark Gable and you're ruining your life because you have alcoholism or something, they don't really go a long way that way. And so that's something I think Hollywood needs to do better, is that you're hiring this actor to be part of it. You also need to kind of take a hand in their life, and that if they got these major problems, you got to help them fix it or whatever, right? Help them get into the rehab programs, ensure that they do these things, but take an active role in it is really what I'm saying.
And one word I think defines it, that's integrity. I mean, I think that the entertainment industry has always prided themselves on pointing out immoral, unethical, whatever issues, and now it's like, okay, well, we got a massive. We thought the sexual revolution solved all of our problems, and it's like, no, that was like step one. Just like the Emancipation Proclamation didn't solve all of anybody's problems.
Didn't end slavery.
Step one. Exactly. Yeah. So, Anyway, I don't know. I think we could go on, but there's better places to hear about it.
Yeah. No. Well, I would disagree, but yes.
Well, then, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, and that one is, quickly, so for those who've been waiting with bated breath, Goodfellas is,
Yeah.
Goodfellas is to
No. Godfather is
to Citizen Kane
as
Goodfellas is to Full Metal Jacket.
Wow.
Did I get that right?
Yep. That's high praise.
Goodfellas is the modern equivalent of like a pinnacle, like a masterpiece of gangster movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket is incredible. It's another one of those films that you watch and it's kind of two different films, right? It's the first half is a complete, almost it feels like a completely different film from the second half.
Yeah.
But the two completely different things put together make an incredible
That's
whole.
why Clockwork Orange is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I fucked up my comparison, but yeah, like Full Metal Jacket is like, I don't know. I think Full Metal Jacket is a fucking unbelievable war movie. And, yeah. Full Metal Jacket relates very closely to my favorite.
Okay.
In another way.
Yeah.
But Full Metal Jacket is like, we kind of almost covered it. I mean, like my dad would say, like, this British director makes this. I don't know how the fuck he does it.
Which Kubrick is from New York, though.
Yeah, technically, yeah, he didn't know that exactly. Yeah. But he was just flabbergasted with all this shit that this guy did, and like he wasn't reading like film whatever.
Exactly.
You know, it's just like he was literally looking at VHS jackets.
Yeah.
Look at it and they're like, oh, pretty good. Who's the director? Like that was it. Not
No, I forgive him for it. It's cool.
I was always. I guess all I'm saying is, I was always impressed because in hindsight, how would he have any clue? He just put the dots together and like I don't even know if there was news articles because like Full Metal Jacket like just came out. You know what I mean? And he didn't let me watch that for a couple of years, but you know it was like pretty fresh. And that would have been like when people would start knowing his name or whatever, right? Anyway, but. Yeah, Full Metal Jacket, I mean, it's the war movie that explains as far like more about war than anything had ever been explained to people before, I think.
Yeah, and it covers kind of the whole gamut of sort of opinions that people can have towards the war, right? Because you start out kind of being a gung-ho patriot, going through training, and then it educates you, and then by the end, you know the full horrors of war and what it's, what it's actually about. You know what I mean? So it's like it takes you from A to Z of war. It's
and like it's funny because I was somewhere I'd read, and I said it before that like young men love war movies because they can't help but imagine what it would be like to be in that situation, and you really entrench yourself in what that feeling would be like until you. Carry on and like see that poor guy, I can't remember his name, when he gets sniped and he's bleeding out and they have to give him like 6 bottles of morphine or whatever, and like you're kind of left with your jaw fucking wide open, and then of course having a if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry for you, but the ending there when he has to kill the sniper, and it's just horrible, right? And it's like all the fucking time, What was I going to say? Plus, it's one of those movies that like invented cliches almost. Like
absolutely.
My wife's like, I've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I feel like I've seen the whole thing. I'm like, yeah. Or it's like Star Wars. She hasn't seen it, but she's like, I'm pretty sure I've seen it all. I'm like, yeah, you probably have. Same thing. Like, it's a cliche, but before that, it was not a cliche. So that says something about how fucking effective it was.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then,
which were probably a collection of other people's ideas from different movies, I'm sure. But whatever.
And then to cover the populist angle is that Full Metal Jacket you might not think of as like a populist movie, right? Like there's not everyone has seen it, right? Like it's sort of beneath the surface. Like I know my mom hasn't seen it. I know a lot of my siblings haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But it actually is it's so good that it's become a bit of a populist movie because an example of this is that I worked at a kitchen in Rock Creek Tap and Grill, and one of the guys actually had like the opening 15 minutes where the drill sergeant is like ripping these privates apart. He had an audio track of it, and they would just play it in the kitchen.
So good.
And I was like,
that's
man,
awesome.
that says a lot about how good this movie is. That these guys will just like take this piece of it and just listen to it.
Yeah, it is that good. Yeah, totally. Yeah, in case anybody underestimates sound. I stared slowly at the recorder.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I was going to poke fun at the recorder because I could tell from your first one that, like, obviously you want something that's, like, whatever, right? And, like, I went 10 years without giving a shit about sound.
Yeah.
What a mistake. Now I'm obsessed. Now I'm like, it is so fucking important. You know, when you work with a real serious professional sound person, and you're like, why isn't he using my Sennheiser $100 mic? It's weird. It's right there. It's free. And he's like, no, man. And like, it's like he doesn't have time to like quickly teach you French. You know what I mean? And it's like, blah, 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 blah. It's beautiful language that you don't understand, and then you start learning, and you're like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? And you see it, you hear it, and you're like, oh, son of a bitch. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I heard Spielberg say it years ago, and I was like, oh, yeah, sound's important. Don't forget sound, and then just, like, moved on and never listened again. And now it's like, oh, my fucking God. And it's so important.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate fully the importance of sound in films.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to the podcast, the sound quality on these podcasts will get better in future podcasts. You know, just keep watching, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
And
like, subscribe, and then he'll probably buy some shit with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that'll go forward. But for now, this is the setup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, this is not a shot at,
it's fine.
You know,
it's
like,
fine.
not at all. I mean, by the way, you know, let's talk.
If you might have missed it, but before this podcast, there's a half an hour of Steve dishing on how shitty my sound set was.
I literally have a bag of sound gear for him to try out. Like, reasonably priced, not an asshole. I'll tell you, something drove me crazy.
It's cool.
Once.
We'll get there.
Something drove me crazy once. Is like, we're walking around and this guy's like, you know what you need right now, and he names some like $80,000 piece of equipment, and I'm like, yeah, obviously you don't fucking have, like, who are you trying to impress right now? You know what I mean? So I was very cognizant. I'm not gonna bring a fucking $50,000 worth of fucking.
This is what you need.
This is stuff you can get cheap online, used, and it'll sound wicked, right? Anyway, for this purpose, it wouldn't be like a versatile whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Not that you don't. I mean, it's insulting to even say it to you, but I was like,
it's
check
fine.
these particular ones out too.
It's fine, and I trust your opinion, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Moving on, number one.
Number one.
Steve Allen's favorite film of all time.
Empire of the Sun is number one.
Wow! You actually surprised me just then.
Really?
Wow.
Really? I thought it'd be pretty predictable at this point.
When you said Empire, I thought you were going to say Empire Strikes Back, and I was like already nodding, like, yeah, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But Empire of the Sun.
Yeah, Star Wars should be in here. I guess, you know, it was on here. It just didn't quite hit 21.
It's fine.
I think I'd watch Taxi Driver more than Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking Star Wars. I mean,
everyone knows Star Wars.
For
is great,
years,
so.
I said it was so good, and the whole trilogy, obviously. I mean, I'm not even talking about Star Wars. I'm talking about the three movies. Like, you don't even watch Star Wars. You watch all three. Like,
exactly.
you're an idiot if you watch Star Wars twice in a row. It's like, obviously, you're going to watch Empire and Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Empire of the Sun, I love it. That's
so I should say, up until I want to give the numbers really quick. So Taxi Driver was I'd be willing to watch it 21 times.
Yeah.
You know what? I mixed up the order there. I think I had Clockwork 20, whatever. Taxi Driver and Clockwork Orange are around 20.
Yeah.
Black to the Future is 25. Pulp Fiction is 29. Shawshank was 30. Lawrence of Arabia is 35. There was a little bit at 29 because I had to say, like, which is better, Shawshank or Pulp? Anyway.
Yeah.
Goodfellas at 35. They're really a tie. 2001, 40. Full Metal Jacket's 100.
That's a huge jump. That's 200.
Yeah, but I only
That's 210% or whatever. I'm not doing the math
so
right now.
High.
But it's way second place is way ahead of third place there.
Yeah, that's why I think Full Metal Jacket is the Citizen Kane of war movies.
Yeah.
You know, if not better.
That's great. I love you saying so. I think it's great.
Full Metal
movie.
Jacket, it has everything, first of all.
Yeah.
It has most important.
Me So Horny.
Do you know why?
Is that Apocalypse Now? I think that's Full Metal Jacket.
Do you know why Lawrence of Arabia is to heavy metal?
Yes, finally.
It has that heavy fucking in the gut punch. That feeling of like in my stomach, like even though it's slow paced, I have this feeling of like, holy fuck, like it gets like a serious, deep emotional reaction out of me. Like after I watched Lawrence of Arabia, I had, like dreams of like living in the desert and like all this shit. After watching Das Boot, I had dreams of buying a submarine. I visited a submarine in San Francisco. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
one of those things where it's like, holy fuck. And Full Metal Jacket is like death metal. It's like, it procures so many feelings in me that I can't explain.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
That it's just like so important. Amazing.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's have another one when we're done.
Yeah.
So Full Metal Jacket is, I would watch that 100 times in my life. I hope I do.
Yeah.
Empire of the Sun, 120 times.
Wow.
If you told me you only got 2 movies to take with you on a desert island where you're going to die alone, it'd be Empire of the Sun and Full Metal Jacket.
Wow. Empire of the Sun, I
Empire
really,
of the Sun?
I really liked it, but
Oh,
I feel like
fucking
not a lot of
unbelievable.
people have watched it. I don't think there's that many people who know about that movie.
That's like such a good movie. I mean, holy fuck. Empire of the Sun is...
Quick synopsis.
Oh, you know
quick
what?
synopsis for kids, for people who have no idea.
Yeah, you should probably know.
It takes place in Japan during
Pre-war, so the first like month or two leading up to Pearl Harbor. Not that that's a part of the movie at all, but
right,
like the
and,
intro of the
and
Japanese
it's like
War.
an English family, or I think it's English family, living in
Oh
Japan.
no, I got that wrong. No. This is pre-Japan's involvement in the war. So anyway, keep going.
And Christian Bale stars as a kid, unbelievable actor already at the
Yeah.
age of whatever 12 or something.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I've
Steven Spielberg
even seen
and his team.
I've even seen Christian Bale in a movie, Henry VIII, I think it is,
Oh yeah.
or Henry V,
Right.
with
Haven't seen it, but yeah.
made by Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
1985 or something, and Christian Bale is like 8 years old.
Yeah.
So this is just after that, Empire of the Sun.
Right.
Christian Bale, I think he's like 12 or 13.
12. Yeah, about that.
Something like that.
Genius already.
Genius
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
at the top of the acting
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, outact most people around him, I'm sure.
No, I know.
I mean, the behind the scenes on the DVD is like, oof, wow, I don't know what version, but whatever I was watching in 1995 or whatever is unreal.
And it's about like he gets separated from his family or something, right?
That's right. Yeah, and he basically has to experience World War II in Japan on his own as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, Empire of the Sun and Full Metal Jacket are extremely related because Empire of the Sun was the last war movie I saw as a child.
Oh.
As a child, as an adolescent, thinking about it. And Full Metal Jacket was the first time I thought of war as an adult, basically, or post-adolescence.
That's interesting. That's very
And, like, they tie together perfectly.
Absolutely.
You know, just like, I watched them at the age of Christian Bale. I watched Empire of the Sun at the age of Christian Bale, and I watched Full Metal Jacket as a, 16, 17-year-old or whatever it was.
Gomer Pyle.
And fucking, like, I don't know what could have more effect on you, because it's just like the old, wherever the hell I learned it, like young men think about what it'd be like to be in war, and that was it. And like, it just leaves you with, one of the first time I heard One by Metallica, I was just like, oh my God, like how intense would it be to be involved in something so fucked up,
Yeah.
Now my nightmares are my children getting hurt, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now the movies I never understood, now it's like a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
And just to go back really quickly to Midnight Run, the scene when he has to go see his ex-wife, if anybody sees it, he goes to see his ex-wife. He's desperate for some money because he's stuck with this guy and like they need to get somewhere on a train or whatever. And he says to his wife, like, can I borrow, like $100? And she's like, I don't have the money, And he starts arguing. He gets into that argument that you have with your spouse, like, instantly, where you, like, you push each other's buttons, and, like, 4 sentences goes from civil to screaming. And then his daughter, who he hasn't seen since she was a child, comes out, and she's, like, 13 or 14 years old, and they stop fighting. And he stares at her nervously, and then he's like, I'm sorry, we're going to go. Thank you. And she's like, here's $10. Thank you. Sorry. Goodbye. I love you, sweetie. Kisses his daughter. Goes out. The daughter comes running out after him with his captive, who, like, now he's, like, friends with almost. And she goes, here. And she puts a wad of money in his hand. It's $100. I earned it babysitting. And I wanted to say this last because I knew what it would do to me. I'm fucking crying right now. And he said, no, honey, that's okay, sweetie. I can't take it. And he just says goodbye, and he gets in, and he's starting to cry.
Wow.
That movie makes me, that moment makes me sob. I'm crying in front of you right now. When I watched it as a kid, I was like, oh, the boring part.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that's why these movies are, like, timeless and important, and, like, that's what makes them good, right?
Yeah. So I know that's getting added to my list of must-watches. Midnight Run,
you know what? It might
1988.
It might not have the effect on you or whatever, like, whatever. I mean, just imagine me watching it with my dad when I was 12 and then watching it again when I'm 40 and going, oh, God, I forgot why this is so good. And meanwhile, everybody's like, Robert De Niro in a comedy? Oh, boy, how embarrassing.
Yeah, no, well, and I can totally attest to it's actually wonderful to see the really good movies and how you can appreciate them at different ages and appreciate them from completely different viewpoints.
Yeah. That's why you got to check out Crocodile Dundee, man. I'll tell you. Forever.
Yeah. One that's like that for me is Field of Dreams. Which I loved it when I was a kid just because it's a sports movie, and I liked Kevin Costner a lot when I was a kid. And now that I'm an adult, I appreciate it so much more, but in a completely different way. Because now I love it because to me it's all about loss and about how we only have one shot. Yeah. Is that this whole movie about this fake thing about being able to redeem his relationship with his father and recruiting this team of players basically who fuck something up in their real life and they're able to go back and make it right. Yeah. And that's what's so beautiful about it is because in reality, and this is the story it's telling, is that we're doing this in this movie. We're going back and we're fixing things that were made wrong. Yeah. But in reality, you can't do that. Yeah. You have one shot to make it right. Yeah. So do it right the first time because you'll never ever get anything back. Oh. And so it's like now I cry multiple times whenever I'm watching Field of Dreams because it hits so hard. Yeah. But when I was a kid, I liked it, but it was just such a nice movie. A different thing, right? Yeah. It was a completely different experience.
Yeah. That's why there should be some real props given out because I sort of said, like I would never dare to direct a children's movie so far. I don't think I ever could, right? But there's some movies where it's like Toy Story.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, if that was on the list, you know what? I happened to just look up a top 100 list, but now that I think I'm like, man, Toy Story might be up there. I'm sure it's tickling 20. Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, now that I've had kids, like, why the fuck would I sit around watching Taxi Driver and imagining having guns up my sleeve when I could watch Toy Story? Yeah. Maybe I'm going to watch that 20 more times as an adult, and it'll surpass Taxi Driver by the time I'm dead. Yeah. That's why this list only matters at the moment.
Yeah.
It only really matters at the moment. And, like, if you make your list and then put it in a drawer and then come back 20 years later, well, you should be embarrassed because, like, things change, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, whatever.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your list with me.
Thanks, man.
I also wanted to discuss a couple other little things here.
Yeah.
One, did you...
this is the gotcha moment. Like, remember that fucking time when you told me to move the light outside, then you made me move it 6 more times? Yo, fuck you. Tell me, anyways, so whatever.
Yeah. Just kind of peripheral
Not
issues.
that I tell you what to do.
One is, have you heard about the new 20th Century Fox Disney merger?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just curious about your thoughts on that and maybe it's like long-lasting effects or how you think that changes things for...
It's one of those things where you don't follow politics till boom, it hits you. And now you better follow politics. It's the same thing. Like, I don't know. I'm in a complete daze. I'm dazzled by what those things would mean, the repercussions of that, and I am completely clueless. Like, I'm just now getting to know representatives from those companies, you know what I mean? Like, maybe bumping into them at market or whatever, and those people are like 7 steps down the ladder from any of that stuff. So I can't say I can barely remember the name of the fucking director of these movies. So, I don't know. I guess it means I better start paying more attention. That's about it.
Okay, yeah.
That's what it means to me.
Okay.
You're not going to find anything here other than, guess we all better all start fucking paying attention to this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say one thing though. I will never think that anybody would ever want to stop watching two-dimensional You know, it's the ultimate art form. It's like it goes in this order: pencil drawing, pencil crayon, oil paint, sculpting, movies. You know what I mean? Some shit in between. It's the most amazing, profound, democratized, and important medium that has ever existed, in my opinion.
And that's good, because that is the larger question at play, is whether or not the film industry will outlive the major studios and stuff like that.
I think if it can outlive VHS tapes and DVDs and downloading and all that stuff, it could probably survive some of that stuff.
The other problem is that,
but you have to navigate it. You can't pretend nothing's happening. That's for sure.
For sure. The other problem is that in the 30s or even earlier than that, in the 20s, they broke up some monopolies that movie studios had, where they were making the films and they were also distributing them. They owned the movie houses, and the U.S. government saw properly that this is a monopoly that should not be so. So they separated the two and made it that studios could not own theaters. And I believe that was a good thing. And the problem now is that the government, whether it be too inferior or cowardly to do something like that, they never break up monopolies now, right? You look at like companies like Apple and Google, and the amount of things they control is just like crazy, mind-blowing. And now Disney is getting kind of that way. They already own, I think it is 50% of basically what gets watched now. And 20th Century Fox is one of 5 major studios. They held roughly 10% of the movies that get watched in theaters, and that just got absorbed to Disney, which might not be the biggest concern, except for the fact that it's just like it's one voice. And Disney has a very particular voice, right? They have a very particular opinion on the movies that they will show.
You got to admit, it's not like they really cleaned up Star Wars that much. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're willing to bend a little bit, you know?
Yes.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yes, I will agree that they did.
I don't believe in a conspiracy of a bunch of evil fat cats in a Disney whatever. And by the way, I've got my vengeance on them anyways, because I do a whole bunch of unlicensed Disney drawings for my kids. Okay. So, you know, I think it's fair to say that I get my digs in.
Yeah. I would say, they're not completely evil as far as I see it. But the thing is, like, 20th Century Fox was one of those ones that was...
Oh, yeah, right.
Was way out there, right? It wasn't PG at all. It was... They owned Deadpool. So that's maybe even the litmus test for what do you think Disney's going to do with 20th Century Fox, because they now own Deadpool.
Well, what would be in their best interest, because they will always do what's in the best interest of their company, is not to fuck it up. To just take it as a profit machine and just like stop and don't do anything else. Okay. My guess is Disney's success is based a lot on what's in the best interest of their company, purely. Okay. And that's an important thing that everybody should learn.
Capitalism.
No, fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
No, fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
Right? The best interest isn't always to make the most money. It's what's in the best interest of the company. Yeah. And that doesn't always mean the most money.
Usually does.
It usually does.
Usually does, yeah.
However, there's a reason it's not most profit. It's fiduciary duty isn't defined as most profit. It's defined as best interest of the company. Okay. And to damage a brand that has been so good and so successful for all those years would be counterintuitive, in my opinion. And I would think that any lawyers they have hanging around would probably say, whoa, you should do your best to just keep that brand making money and being, you know, what it was and whatever. So a lot of people won't like it, but sometimes some house cleaning happens, and sometimes it's kind of for the better, because any company has some dead weight sometimes, you know what I mean? Sure, yeah. It's a horrible reality that sometimes affects somebody's mortgage, and it's scary and whatever, but this is why I think that everybody should live their life with integrity, do what's in the best interest of, in an order of, you know, themselves, their family, their company, their whatever, their project.
Yeah.
We're good, yeah. And anyway, it's a fucking stupid tangent, sorry, but like,
that's fine.
It's probably more important in my opinion than like what the hell's going to happen to Disney if anybody's listening. And I think that Disney will do what's in the best interest of Disney, and what's in the best interest of Disney is making sure that you do what's in the best interest of 20th Century Fox.
Okay, I tend to hope you're right.
Yeah. Well, it might not be pretty though. Like some things will change for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
But
sure. I don't
something like Deadpool will probably be fine. In fact, it might get a little more attention.
Interesting. And then finally, what do you think about the Academy Awards? And do you think it has a place in...
I got one thing to say about the Academy Awards. They need a category for comedy. That's cruel that they don't have a best comedy category. It's bullshit.
Right.
I hate it.
And so part of the problem is
Maybe they do now, but like, I don't know, man. Like, that is one of the hardest genres.
They
I
don't-
feel sorry for people who are like, I'm just getting involved in film and I'm thinking of doing comedy, and I'm like, Jesus. It's like I'm just getting involved in science and I'm thinking of doing, fucking rocket. Like, I don't know what's more complicated than rocket science.
Yeah.
Like, it is the rocket science of entertainment.
Yeah, to me, that's part of the problem with cinema or the Academy today is that never used to be a problem.
Yeah.
That you go to 1939 and 2 or 3 of the films nominated for Best Picture, and we're talking a year that included Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind and stuff.
Yeah.
1 or 2 of those films that were nominated for Best Picture were comedies.
Yeah.
Because they understood that comedies can be great films.
Yeah.
But that seems something that's like almost completely lost.
I know, and I can't
Nowadays.
blame you. I'm like if Schindler's List came out and it was nominated along with the best comedy that you'd watch 1,000 times, like, I'm gonna vote for Schindler's List.
Yeah.
That's why it deserves its own genre. That's Tropic Thunder. Sorry.
Yeah.
My dad knew Henry Miller, so by the way, name
Nice.
drop. Yeah.
Wow.
Friend of the family. Got one of his drawings. Tropic Thunder deserved an Academy Award. Not against any of the ones that were in the Academy
Right.
Awards, but it deserved. Like, are you telling me Tropic Thunder doesn't deserve an Academy Award? Like, did you watch it?
That's a great thought. So would you be then advocating sort of for like
I wouldn't bump any of the winners that year, but
Yeah.
it deserves an Academy
but
Award.
like maybe a Golden Globes type format where it's
No. It
Best
should be in the
music.
Academy Awards.
yeah, but I mean like how
Sorry,
how Golden Globes has like they have a drama Best Picture and then they have a music comedy Best Picture. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, because I don't think Tropic Thunder is a better movie than what won that year. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's not a better movie than.
We're talking 2005. I bet it was.
Let's check it out. Yeah.
Well, I don't even know. I don't know.
feel
That,
like-
that would take a while to look up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm going to assume it's not, but I mean, it might be. I think there should still be a Best Picture, and if a comedy, okay, Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful would be technically a comedy
Yes.
that would probably be should be nominated at least for Best Picture, along with the other nominees.
Right. I think it was.
Was
but
it?
But
There you
that's
go.
But that's all you're saying is that, and that's something I would totally agree with, is that they should have better taste, basically, and understand that when a comedy is great,
Yeah.
right, and that it won't be the same as a great drama, but it's great in its own right, and that deserves.
It's just its
recognition.
own. Oh, so yeah, what you're saying is yes, what I agree with. A
Yeah.
best comedy and a best drama, I guess. Yeah. But
Yeah,
no,
having two separate categories
Not
so
really.
that you could.
Not really. Like, I think there should be a best comedy and a best. Oh, I guess. Oh God, I guess it gets complicated because it's like, well, why not a best musical and why not a best whatever? But like,
Yeah, exactly.
They deserve. There's something about comedy that deserves a lot more respect than it gets. That's
Absolutely.
all. That's all. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I want to identify a problem. Is that comedies are left behind in accolades. That's my problem. My maybe solution is some sort of category for it. Sorry.
I couldn't agree more. A lovely sentiment. So I would love to end this podcast by just
too.
asking you.
Just kidding. It was so much fun.
But by just asking you if there's anything, what are you looking forward to? Is there a movie or a TV show
watch?
that you're looking forward to watching?
Well, like
that's
Apollo
really-
11 is one of them, obviously, and like there's so many, man. Like it's
Okay.
the Renaissance for anybody, any doomsayers out there or whatever. It's like this. It's the Renaissance again. You know, like fuck this medium. In case anybody thought that like torrents were gonna kill it. It's like told ya. Like of course it's the greatest thing humans have invented for entertainment and like education and all these other things. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I was one of those skeptics, and then now I just see the money Netflix is pouring left, right, and center. And some of it's garbage, admittedly. Some of it's garbage.
Not much.
But
It's
then
pretty
you
good.
get the trailer coming out yesterday or the day before for Stranger Things 3, and I can't be more excited.
There you go.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, man.
I really appreciate it. It's always to hear. You're a very smart man. It's always a pleasure to hear.
Well, thank you.
things
That's
you
very
have to
flattering. Thank you.
say. So I'm going to cut that
And you know what?
part
And
off.
yeah, right. Well, you know what? It was an honor to be asked because I've got the ability to ramble on about a lot of stuff, and it's really nice when somebody like wants to kind of hear some of it, because sometimes it's like, Jesus, I don't know if this person wants to hear it at all. So it's really nice to be able to just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.